All right, call the meeting to order at 5:30.
Finance and Council Committee calls meeting to order at 5:30.
Okay, item A under the joint meeting is review and vote recommendations on remaining special town meeting articles. So I believe it's just number 3 in the scorecard, right?
That's correct, yeah.
So this is cost overage on the Church and Prospect Street project, request by the Board of Water Commissioners, and this number is correct, 161.
Yes.
Bob, you wanna present on behalf of the board?
Well, I think as everybody knows, we've had some contentious feelings over this whole project. Didn't quite go the way we had planned, I don't think. But there were several steps we could have taken, but we decided to just pay everything. And so we came up with that, what was it, 162,000? Or did you go with 161,
Yeah, it's 161, 938 and 54 cents.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
It's basically the full amount invoiced by DeFelice minus the $105 that the Kate Howard contract was reduced by.
So that's what we voted to do yesterday at our meeting, and we'll see what that meeting says.
Is Tom SelectBoard, any questions for Bob? You mentioned things that were done wrong. I mean, I'm curious what the root cause of the situation is and what you plan to do to rectify it going forward.
Well, there were several mistakes made on the engineering part, on our part. And we're looking into doing other things. So, which I don't particularly want to discuss tonight. But we're taking a hard look at a few things.
I think it's reasonable to share with town meeting voters and ratepayers what your plan of action is. I mean, as a ratepayer, I am not happy about the situation.
Neither are we, but we're possibility of changing engineering companies.
Okay, well, that's the kind of thing I
I
think
mean,
voters
we
will.
looked at it, I didn't know if we could say something like that publicly, because we've done nothing either way. But we're seriously looking at changing engineering companies. And frankly, I was very disappointed with the engineering company in this, procedure.
Mhm.
It wasn't what I think they were up to, and okay, people.
I mean, are the things that the water department or the water commissioners can do differently going forward? I mean, I think in terms of contract management.
I think we've learned a lot out of this one. And I'm not speaking for further boards, because I'm not gonna be around all that much longer, and hopefully I won't see another road project going on. If we do, it won't be to this magnitude. But we learned a lot from this one. And things will be done different for next time.
I have a question. If you had to do it over again, what would have happened when this first came up and you submitted that first change order?
Goes back, before that actually, goes back into the design process of it, where the engineers expect 4 inches, the town required the 6. So it goes further back than when it was just discovered. It should have been more into the planning. And then we could have anticipated, better out, what we would have used for more asphalt and everything, so.
So why didn't the engineer know that? I mean, don't. they
I
do
asked
this all
them,
the time?
with Rick standing beside me when we went down for the sidewalk for one of those, and I've spent months trying to beat that out of the engineers. When Bob says we're not happy with them, that's an understatement,
Yeah.
so.
So isn't there a permit that should have been obtained, Angus, that this could have been fleshed out?
Yeah, the street opening permit it absolutely should have been required for this project, given the length of the trench. As I think the select board knows, FinCom may or may not know that. Street opening permit provides that certain permits can be issued by the highway superintendent, such as like if someone's putting a new driveway in or a utility connection, but anything above certain scale has to go to the board. And given the length of the trench in these public roads, that was required. we did, bring that up with the engineer and, personally, I expressed my surprise they wouldn't have gotten that permit prior to putting the project out for bid, because obviously there could be conditions that could result from that permit that would have a material impact on the specs for the job and therefore would have, resulted in a truer project description for people to bid on and a truer cost number. They said at the meeting we had earlier this week that, in their experience, that's a permit that is obtained by the contractor after the project is awarded. I was surprised to hear them say that. I also, I pointed out that the meeting minutes from the February 2024 pre-construction meeting say that the contractor is responsible for that. And so I asked Dayton Howard during one of the meetings for the Water Commission. I don't know if it was this week or the prior one, but don't they feel that they had some responsibility to ensure that that permit was in fact, secured by the contractor before they broke ground? And I don't remember their exact response. I'm sure I wrote it down because I wrote down everything, but they basically didn't take in my opinion, they did not take responsibility for that.
They did, a lot of it, maybe a street opening permit should have been done on our part too. It was just something I never thought of.
It just seems like we paid them a lot of money to manage and oversee this project.
That's pretty good.
And I guess, I also have questions about their invoicing. The project was done, deep lease was done at the end of June. And then we received 2 additional invoices from Cheta and Howard in July and August.
They were still back working the 1st of July, doing the looming and the gravel on the edge of the road, and the little machine work on the side. So that was a little bit of work into the 1st of July.
From Cheta and Howard?
They had the resident engineer, they had pointed out what had to be done. Basically keeping an eye, babysitting the contractor, making sure they got the depths of the gravel on the side of the road for Butch in DPW. And cleaning up correctly. And they still had some cleanup from some of the wattles that were still in the bushes and stuff, so they did do a little the 1st of July. But to what extent?
Yeah, there's a $9,600 invoice in July and a $6,900 invoice in August.
Angus, correct me if I'm wrong, isn't part of that the adjustment of what he did in July, out of what he did with the resident engineer? Remember, he was supposed to redo the contract, and he thought it was easier to adjust the resident engineer and the.
Yeah, so they had to wait for that change order to be approved before they could bill, because they were changing budget between the engineering and the
resident here and the construction administration.
And so they couldn't bill against it until that budget was approved to be reallocated between those purposes.
So have you, Board of Water Commissioners, have you looked at the impact this $160,000 is gonna have on the financial plan for the future? And that's a pretty big chunk of the undesignated, right?
We're planning on taking that out of our retained earnings, so.
Right, but the retainer, you weren't planning on.
No, but we don't have much of a choice unless we want to go to court and drag it out for years and cost probably 10 times as much.
I guess I'm just asking what the plan is now to, absorb that, overrun, and what impact is that gonna have on future projects as well as operations rates for the.
That we haven't discussed at this point, because I'm sure from this point on, there will be others.
Yeah, I think it would be good to have that for town meeting in case people want to know, how is this gonna impact their rates and so forth.
This time shouldn't impact.
It shouldn't impact the rates.
At some point going forward, because you're gonna have $160,000 less than you had other ones, so.
Can I just go back and ask one more question about your answer? So it was bid one way, and then during the design phase, they changed the depth of what they were asking for. Isn't that the time that there should have been some adjustment to what was bid and was going to be paid?
No, it was designed and bid prior to half of my board being here and Mike was here. I came in, it went up to bid. We wound up starting the project, the bid was awarded. We started the project and on site, we did a site walk. And they said, okay, we're gonna put 4 inches of pavement back, and right then and there, which was like, no timeout, you're matching the road. To the depth of the road, which is six plus inches. This is what West Newbury has, and we're gonna stick to that quality of a road. This is what I want you to put in. At that point, I asked Hayden Howard to tell me what the difference was, because if we went from 4 inches to 6 inches, he should have been able to give me an answer. He didn't, and I asked him repeatedly. For that answer.
You didn't get an answer at all.
I didn't get an answer. I couldn't get an answer. He told me that they were going from, linear feet to ton, it was gonna be a $0 impact. I'm like, okay, well, you're gonna actually add a volume of that trench. Depth wise, it's gotta change. And he said it was marginal, and I disagreed with him.
To your point, I mean, wouldn't changing the basis on which you buy asphalt be normally like a contractual change? I mean, but you would have had to you would think, I mean, I don't know anything about paving roads.
So with the paving of the roads, I've talked to George D. Felice about what they went. And they fixed for us and they did, and the grinding and everything else. He actually came up with a much higher number of what he had in his mind. He didn't come back and try to fight any of it, he just said, that's what it is, we'll do it per ton. He didn't charge us, did charge us, but not another separate line item for grinding, extra handwork. It was pretty labor intensive, they were down there for, a fair amount of time.
Oh, I live there, I know.
Right, so you know exactly how long they tested
I
up.
mean, I don't think the asphalt's 6 inches deep, but they were definitely there.
Yeah, that's one of the things I kept hopping at, and the engineer on site actually came out, he had his, that's one thing he did, he walked down the road with his tape measure, checking it every single foot of the way. And, the only place it was thin was the top of Prospect Street. And they actually fixed that, they put it back correctly, but it was thin up there, and the rest of it going down towards the bottom of Prospect Street and the bottom of Church was 6 to 8 inches.
Okay, well, I'm on the top half, so.
Top half was very thin on Prospect.
Yeah.
The bottom half was pretty thick. And that they actually have some documentation, I could actually get you some of that if you wanted to see it, but it was pretty thick down
Thank you.
Yeah, but part of what was, I think, most concerning to me in terms of the engineer's work was if you look at the kind of line item breakdown of the bid budget versus they had provided in May and June of last year, 3 different documents to the Water Commission at that time showing a projection that the project was going to be coming under budget. And it was from a modest amount, like $4,500 to about $50,000. There were 3 different spreadsheets they sent over the span of about 4 weeks. And when you look at how they arrived at that, the line items for paving were showing as significant overages relative to what the bid prices were. But they were showing underages in a number of other categories, including, among other things, police details and ductile iron pipe. That they were in their engineers' projections were showing a net reduction or essentially on budget. But they were essentially saying and putting on their letterhead that this was going to come in on budget and that the underspending in these other lines was going to offset the overspending in the pavement. So they never actually said that the paving wasn't going to be over budget. They said that total project cost was going to be within budget. And that the last document, I think, was early June of 2024. The following winter, last January, February, March, Jenny and Caitlin Gilbert and I were focused on the financing and whether to go another year of bond anticipation notes or to go long-term debt. And we were relying on representations from the engineer and frankly from the Water Commission, the Water Department, that the project was going to be on budget. And it was on that basis that we went to long-term debt for this project. And that's really what a lot of the problem stems from, because We could have done another year of bond anticipation notes and not gone to long-term debt till it was fully closed out. Or we could have incorporated, fudge factor into the borrowing at, borrowed an extra 200 grand or something. And then we would have had the amount to pay it. And then if we had more, we could have prepaid the principal. But because we were told over the course of a lot of correspondence, a lot of meetings, water commission meetings, as well as meetings in this room, daytime working meetings with our finance team, with water commission, with Mark, with Tate and Howard, part of those meetings, we were told, no, this is a good number. And on that basis, we went to market, and this town.
Before we went to market too, we stood in your office and I called Steve and I said, Angus explained exactly what he just explained to you, what we were trying to do, and we didn't wanna come in on the budget. This is what we're looking for, so it was explained very clearly.
Very clearly in writing. I mean, it could not have been clear. This was a big decision. I mean, whether we do 1-year ban or a long-term debt, that affects decades of this town. And we went to long-term debt based on representations, and I really pressed the engineer quite a bit, as to whether they stand behind those projections from May and June of last year as good faith representations, and they claimed that they did. I do not feel those were good faith representations.
What was the date of that?
There were 3 of them, 2 were in May and 1 was in June of 2024.
Change order is dated April last year.
Change order 1.
Yeah. Was it received?
It was received, but it wasn't, we never signed off on it. That was, we had asked him to clarify some things on it, and they just put it on the back burner and completely forgot about it. Look at the $0 on it. He was still pretty comfortable with us coming in where we were supposed to be.
I just, it's one thing to say the engineers at fault, but I think we as the town bear responsibility too. I mean, they are working for you, right? I mean, there's a line right on there for the Board of Water Commission to sign those change orders, and it was not signed, so. I think we all bear responsibility for this, and. Yeah, I think Tate and Howard did a terrible job, but we need to do a better job managing our contractors. With that amount of money, you can't just let them run them.
It was a huge learning curve on this. The next project is gonna be scrutinized a lot better than this one, that's for sure.
And again, none of us being engineers. You ask the professionals to give you the price. Or a final price, they give it to you, we go out and secure funding. And then all of a sudden, it's, whoops, we made a mistake.
But if there's a contract that you need to sign off on, and you've not signed off on it, that's a problem in managing the contract. There's only one line on there for Board of Water Commissioners, and all 3 need to sign it, so it just seems like they're used to just doing what they want, with no oversight, which is not great. So we don't have an option, right, other than going.
So one point that I think everyone knows, but it's important to make really clear, is even with the overage, the total project cost came in less than what the voters had authorized for borrowing a few years ago. So for that reason, the town has the legal authority to pay the bill. The problem would be, because we've already gone to long-term debt, if town meeting does not appropriate the funds, Jenny and I and Kate and Gilbert will have no choice but to borrow that money. And towns do not borrow even for $1 million. It's a too small an amount. You incur far too many costs, and there's annual reporting. There's a lot that goes into issuing borrowing. You don't do that for $1 million, never mind $162,000. So with the Water Commission's vote to approve the change order and authorize payment, that bill will be paid. That is their authority. It's not the select boards, it's not FinCom's, it's not town meeting. So it would have, town meeting approved it years ago when they approved the debt service. The question before town meeting is whether to appropriate retained earnings to pay the bill, which administratively would be far simpler. So now that the funds have been appropriated by the Water Commission, I would recommend that town meeting approve the appropriation of retained earnings, because that allows us to cut a check pay it and it's done. As opposed to if it somehow was voted down, we would have to go to market and we would have to spend an enormous amount of finance time, which we have already spent hundreds of hours in the last 10 weeks on this issue. So whether it's the right thing or not to pay the money, as far where I sit right now is kind of immaterial. It's where does the money come from? Does it come from retained earnings or does it come from borrow?
Yeah, just the final point I want to make is that the select board contributed more than $600,000 of ARPA money towards this project, and I'm offended that it was not managed better. Any other discussion or questions?
It is my understanding is the motion will be made from retained earnings at this point. My other comments, I fully understand that the water commission is separate and distinct from the select board. My only question would be, was there any opportunity to engage the engineer or the contracts to negotiate the price in any way whatsoever? I mean, they're both complicit a little on the whole thing and they're still getting paid full value. Is there any middle ground?
Conversation I had with Steve was if we went back to, he's not thinking of discussing that bill with his company, he's saying going to default lease. So he just thinks they're gonna come up with a bigger number, not small.
That's not how you negotiate. I mean, didn't the calculation change with that first change order, the process, how they calculated the cost?
Should have.
We'd seen documentation
Went
that
to
a lot.
4 inches to 6 inches, and I would have thought the calculation would have changed. He said asphalt prices didn't change, which he's correct, asphalt prices didn't change, but volume did. So if we were expecting to put 400 ton in the ground, it should have been 600 or 700 ton, it should have been the estimated quantity that we would have.
We'd seen documents a couple of weeks ago about the cost of what the town has currently contracted with paving per ton versus the change order. I think it's
200 a ton.
I thought it was 400 multiple on what the town.
What the initial analysis the town attorney did was based on the bid cost that the town had received for its recent paving bid.
Yeah.
That's apples to oranges with this, what Butch refers to as handwork, this kind of trench work. So more informally, Butch did approach at my request, did approach our current paving contractor to say, if we were to have solicited bids for handwork, what would you have priced that at? And they said more like $200 because it's obviously much more, much more labor relative to a ton of asphalt on a street paving job compared to this handwork. So $200 is basically the informal price that.
But wasn't this in the 380 range?
It was, yeah.
Oh, you're paying twice the price?
So it's not the price, twice the price. To do handwork, they're figuring in cutting the road, grinding in.
I think that it takes into account.
Yeah. It does.
Yeah.
Well, the detail work in with adding the grinding, because there's an extra step of overlaying the trench, so you don't have a straight joint on it. It's a very, very labor intensive, so that's why it went up. Is their explanation to me?
Well, my name is Jack Haley, I'm a newly elected commissioner. The contract amendment, the contract change that was initiated by change order 1, it converted the method for pricing, but the dollar value of the project remained the same because the basis for the project was still the same, it was based on 4 inches. They did not pursue or try to estimate what the additional paving costs would be because they, again, as Angus had said, they believed that there were other costs in the budget that were going to offset these added costs. And they did not anticipate this large an overage for the paving. So, and what we did we asked the engineer at no cost to the town to go through their recent projects dating back to 2024 and to current and to provide us with similar cost bases on bids that their office had brought in. They gave us a calculation of that. And what that did show is there is a continual and steady increase in that same pricing for that scope of work that we are now paying for. So it did not seem to us to be disadvantageous to be paying for that work based on a bid price that was secured in 2023. Because it's very clear that all of those cost factors that would have gone into that have been continually increasing. If we had opened up that discussion, our concern was that the contractor probably had a lot of motive to try to secure higher value for that same work. So we do have documentation, I think that was shared with Angus as well. Refer to it as market intelligence on what's going on with the paving industry during that time span that we were going through this problem. And based on that information, once it was received and we had an opportunity to discuss it, we did decide that it was very advantageous based on those numbers to secure the extra work at a 2023 bid price. Because I think everybody will agree when that project was bid, that was a good test of the market at that time. And that was the low bidder out of all of the bidders that had submitted. That was the way that we looked at it.
I'll go back to my original question. Has anybody asked the engineer and the contractor if there's any assistance they can give to reduce the value of the change order? It's a simple question, and I was in a different end of construction. A lot of times there is cooperation there. I mean, it's not a select board issue, it's a water commission issue, and I'm not a water and great user, but if I was using water, I'd be wanting to know the answer on that. Did we get the best price for the change order that we could? Could you negotiate it at all? So.
Yeah, I agree with that notion. I mean, I work for Mass DOT, so I have a lot of experience with this stuff, and there are times, not anymore, because I understand, you know, when I'm involved in something like this, how something needs to be packaged in order to not have a snag when it comes time to pay the bill. But earlier in my career, there's been scenarios where something wasn't properly substantiated. It gets to a certain level of the review process and the bad news comes back. This isn't right. Sorry, you know, I know the handshake, you know, meant something, you know, at the time, but we can't, from a regulatory standpoint, we can't pay something that's not properly substantiated. So I think what I'm curious about is the conversion. I understand going from 4 to 6, it's 33% more material, but it's not straight line because there's a little bit more work than just the asphalt that's going into the trench. So it's not just a straight line. You couldn't, for instance, necessarily pay 33 or 50% more footage to get there, right? They wanted to convert it into tons, but did they convert it or did they renegotiate the price to encapsulate different material costs? You know, those two things are different, whether it's a straight conversion or if they renegotiate it. I think the math going into that, again, I don't think the town should renege on a deal per se, but there's an implicit understanding or part of a deal like that is that it's being handled in good faith, right? And I think if it was a good faith price, then the math would reflect that, you know, with a formula or however they came up with the new tonnage rate. So I don't understand why the original, I assume you guys didn't design the job, but I've never seen paving work not go by the ton anyway. It seems kind of odd that, you know, anybody would expect them to cut an exactly 4-inch deep trench and put exactly 4 inches of asphalt in there. You'd think it would be by the ton and anyway, but yeah.
Right, anything else?
Just, I have one more comment. So we, you know, I think to the point that's been raised a couple of times of how to prevent this. I think there's a number of answers to that. This isn't the only one, but one thing that, you know, we did meet with our auditor to talk about this issue. We brought this forward as a concern that we have in terms of a management concern. And as you know, the Water Commission has the authority of the 1936 Act to sign contracts and to expend its funds. By state law, all approved contracts have to be filed with the town accountant, which is done. The change order, once executed, would have needed to be submitted to the finance department of the town accountant. because it was received in sometime around May 1st of 2024, we didn't actually receive it till either July 31st or August 1st of 2025. We had no knowledge that this had been sent, and that to us exposes a concern. So we've talked about, and we just had this meeting recently, but we've talked about possible change to one of our financial policies to require that if another contracting entity within the town receives a proposed change order, even before it's executed, that should be prompt notice of that to the finance department. So we are looking at things we can do on a policy level to at least try to, that's just like one part of this, but we are gonna be looking policy wise at what we can do. In the finance department where we're not receiving this information directly. In fact, we got the change order number 2, July 31st of this year. And I think it was, I think maybe it was Jody who sent it to us, and we called her and said, is this a typo? Like it says change order 2, there's no change order 1. And it was only then that we became aware that there was this change order 1 that had been sent some 14 months prior and never actually brought forward. It didn't appear on a single water commission agenda from May 2024 until August of 2025.
Okay, anything else? Motion from the select board?
I'll try and see how it goes. Make a motion to support temporary article number 3 to have the Newbury Water Commission use retained earnings to pay the $161,939 on the overage.
Second.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
I make a motion, kind of replicating Chris's motion, to approve the $162,000 out of water department retained earnings to pay for the overage in the contract.
Second.
Favor?
All right,
Actually, no.
let's do the rationale.
Oh, boy. You volunteer? Guess that means me.
You could have assigned it to someone else.
There's obviously no sunset in this case, so this is
Correct.
All right, item B, select board review, finalize and approve the sign of the warrant.
Will there be an opportunity for me particularly to comment on more of the articles?
Yeah, the next item is review of the draft motion for the town.
What did you say?
Thank you.
I thought that's what you
Thank
said.
you.
No, this is just to finalize and approve the signing of the warrant itself.
Okay, well, I have a question about one of the articles that's on the warrant. So timing is one. If I have a problem with one of the articles on the warrant and you vote to sign it, then is it too late for me to tell you what the problem is?
Why don't you go ahead and say
Oh,
what your issue is?
Okay, Article 3. The draft Article 3.
Yeah.
It says to amend the following line items as set forth, unless you've changed it, which the copy that I have says. We'll vote, I'm sorry, it says Article 2. To see if the town will vote to amend the following line items. Well, it's according to town meeting time, one cannot amend the warrant from a previous meeting. And so this is out of order. I note that the motion does not mention amending the warrant. The motion just says to appropriate the amounts that you wanted. But I don't know what the implications are for the warrant being out of order. But according to town meeting time, that is not allowed.
So this has been reviewed by KP, right? When they did it.
Yeah, I mean, just in terms of the process, my office goes through putting together the draft warrant is we look at prior articles. There have been a number
Oh,
of.
yes, this has
Yeah.
come up
Right.
multiple times.
So we've used the same form of warrant article that's been used for prior budget amendments. All of which have gone through KP, including this one. So I recall that concern's been raised in the past.
And it's been changed to.
So how would you want it changed?
Well, I think you need to get rid of the amendment, or, and town meeting time is our official parliamentary procedure. And on page 167, it says. Those who confuse articles with main motions will sometimes try to amend the article. But this is one thing that may not be done, an article itself may not be amended.
So we're amending the line item, not the article.
The line item is part of the article.
All right, so would you want to just strike the word amend?
In the past, we've had to use other wording and you decided what it is you wanted to do. But, and as I pointed out, the motion does not say to amend, the motion says to appropriate. So if the article simply said to appropriate, those amounts, which are, I think, are they all additions or are they?
No, it's a net reduction of about 27,000
Yeah.
net
So
reduction.
is it true that we changed it in the past? And
I mean, I'd have to go back and.
We have,
What
we have
we have changed.
amended budget.
No,
Oh, I'm
the
sorry.
question was, have we changed the form of this article in the past?
Yes.
I mean, you know, well, Tim did review this, I can certainly, if, you know.
It's not something that would stick out like a sore thumb, but
Right.
it does to me because I'm responsible for making sure that the things are within the.
Yeah, and it says amend the line items adopted under the motion. It's not amending the prior article, it's amending.
Well, the article
anyhow.
says to amend the following line items, and those are part of the article.
Adopted under the motion.
the
Adopted
rest
under
of
the
the-
motion.
Now, this says to see if the town will vote to amend the following line items as set forth in the fiscal year 2026 town omnibus budget adopted under motion for Article 5 of the annual town.
Right, adopted under the motion. So, I mean, the intent is clear. I think the language is consistent, but I can certainly review it with Tim again in the morning. Normally he would be here. He wasn't able to be here tonight due to a conflict. But the board could certainly vote to approve the warrant subject that, you know, if town meeting, or I'm sorry, town council, you know, recommends changing that. You could start, you know, I'm not gonna look for your signatures on this until it's ready to post,
Okay.
which Monday's the deadline for that.
Mhm.
Excuse me, could I just raise a point maybe? Would it be appropriate? It's not amending the budget, are these line item transfers? We're just
No.
moving money?
No, they're lines within the approved operating budget.
Yes. Okay. All right. Never mind.
Okay, so anything else, Casey?
No,
All right. So are we ready to,
I noticed the Article 3 incorrectly refers to water stabilization. It should refer to water retained earnings. One question I had flagged on Article 6, it's written that this is sponsored by the Board of Library Trustees. I didn't know where it's coming out of free cash, if that was something.
Yeah.
Under the sponsor.
I did have a question on that. I mean, I think it's important. I mean, that's not the total amount.
Correct.
Is there a way to reflect, I guess in the motion, we could reflect that the library board is paying for the balance. But if it's free cash, I don't think it should be a board of library trustees.
Okay.
What do you think, Kristen?
On the motion, I did make it a little bit more nuanced where, you know, I put funding. Purpose of funding a portion of costs. I don't see any reason that couldn't be in the article language as well. actually would probably be an improvement to say that, because it's not gonna cover the full cost.
Yeah. So just say to pay a portion of funding the library facility master plan, or-
Yeah, funding a portion of costs necessary, something like that.
That's consistent also with what I put in the rationale.
Yeah, the rationale does point it out.
Yeah, that's a portion.
Right, any other?
Well, the big one, of course, is the location. Did you get my note today? That's kind of a wrinkle. I think I copied Dennis. I don't think we've shared it with the rest of the FinCom, so. The assumption the plan all along has been that this would be in the middle high school gym. We heard from Jonathan Senior earlier this week that because one of the teams has made it to the postseason in volleyball, and those teams are in the gym. It's a slim chance, but if they are still in the playoffs on November 3rd, and if they are the higher seed, which is unlikely, but they would be hosting, so that it's a slim chance, but we can't take that chance, so I notified the board that we're gonna need to either change the date, which I do not recommend, or go to either the annex, which the risk there is if too many people show up and it's a fire hazard, that ends up being a problem, or the page of the cafeteria, which we have put a hold on that space. It is available if that's the choice that you make.
Based on the turnout for the planning board public hearing, I'm not based on low turnout, I should say.
Yeah.
Not expecting a huge crowd, but does everybody think? The annex is a much better space than the page. You think it's likely we have more than 200 people?
No.
I didn't say it did.
You think we might?
I have no idea on this. This is our to gauge.
I know it's been talked about a lot in debate, but I work in Marblehead, and the last time the housing issue came up Marblehead, they overfilled the gymnasium. They had to buy a trip, so they couldn't host the meeting there. So they had to reschedule for the next night. So it turned out to be a little bit of a fiasco. So
Was that the first time it came up? or-
no, it's been debated a lot in Marblehead. So I would urge a bigger location just in case, but that's just one experience.
It's inconvenient and unfortunate, but if we should overflow the annex and have to adjourn because there are laws about it, we can reschedule to another night in the Page School. There has been almost no discussion that I've seen on social media about this particular book. And when we had the one last time, it was all over the place. There was a tremendous amount of concern and angst and whatever about the original motion at that annual town meeting, and this one, nada. So, just based on that, which is just one thing, it's possible that it won't attract a lot of attention. And the rest of the warrant doesn't really have anything terribly exciting on it.
Right.
I mean, I don't disparage your warrant, but it's.
So what are the implications of having a postponement and then reading?
Well, I think it would be important to have that backup plan clear, so it could be announced right at the time. I think it's, it would be inconveniencing for a lot of people, but I mean, I think I said to the board, from a staff level, the annex is far preferable. The page, it's just, so if your first choice is the page, that causes a lot of staff time. If your first choice is the annex, and if that works out, that's actually a lot easier to administer. If it doesn't work out and there's an overflow crowd and it's gotta go, to the next night or 2 nights later, that's gonna be a big headache, but I mean, I kind of think that's a chance you guys are gonna need to make that decision and own it. If you say the annex, we will certainly work out a specific backup plan so that if in the moment there's, too large a crowd that can't be safely accommodated, that we would have we work with Casey and the school and that they have a very clear backup plan. One thing Amanda and I were talking earlier this week, and she suggested that, let's say in the moment, there's too many people, but it's not like 300, it's like a bit too many. Maybe you take that out of order and do it first, and that way some number of people leave. So I think there are different scenarios where we will do the best we can and manage it regardless of if we had reason to think there might be 500 people or 400 people, then I think you would really have to go with Paige. But if we don't think that, I think it would be a reasonable chance to take to post it at the annex. We could even put something in, well, I wouldn't want to put something in the booklet, because that might be read as dissuading people from, we have too many people, we're gonna have to postpone, that might be read the wrong way.
So we don't have to, the process doesn't have to start over.
No, you just would need to announce, or the moderator would need to announce a date and time certain for when it would be continued.
Yeah.
Correct.
So what's the capacity?
And if we did
200?
adjourn and postpone to a time certain, we wouldn't have to use Page, we could go back and try to use the high school,
That's true also.
which would eliminate it was a lot of work to use Page for everybody, and although it worked out well, it was interesting for the people that had to do it. But this way, if we have to adjourn and go to a larger space, we can go back to.
Well, it's the next night though, I think, and they're in the playoffs, that's not gonna make much of a difference.
I'm not sure what night, I'm
Well, we
not sure
don't
how
have to
that.
adjourn to the next night, we can adjourn to the next week.
Well, I would prefer to do it like right away, because all the push to get the town meeting set up and everything, that would be better than delaying the whole week. All right.
There is an election the next day as well.
Mm.
Oh, no, I'm sorry, but we don't have an election. No, Amanda has an election,
Oh.
not our election. Never mind. Forget that.
I will not be available that day. Sorry.
So Amanda was gonna answer, she thinks she said 200.
Well,
Yes, but is that a real number?
no, it's not a real number. No, it's
Not
not,
exact.
I think that's a fair number, but it's not officially rated. The fire department has never officially rated that space. So there is no official maximum capacity, but we had a town meeting a couple of cycles ago where the attendance was right around 200, and I think we all felt it was a little tight. So informally, that's.
My next question is, what have the last 4 or 5 meetings had for attendance? Forget the recent one, because we know that was stacked because of this, but what were the?
The last special, that was at the auditorium, right?
Yeah, we barely got
No,
quorum.
we waited a half hour.
Yeah.
Quorum.
And we needed a quorum of 90. So I think we probably had 91 people.
So one article and people left. So I'm inclined to take the chance, but what does everybody else feel?
Do whatever you want, but I'm not a gambler, so I would
All right.
hedge on. I mean, really, you're gonna look silly if we end up at age a day or two later, so.
Yeah, we will.
I can live with that.
She's a gambler.
FinCom, do you have any input on this?
Annexes better.
I would go with the annex too.
I think you're right, based on the meeting of the other night, there was very little attendance or interest,
People,
but I just, you never know, right?
Yeah.
This is West Newbury.
all right.
And Casey brings up a good point too. I haven't seen a single yard sign, pro or anti.
Yeah. Rich?
My sense is we're gonna have trouble getting a quorum.
Okay. That's not a bad thing in this particular situation. All right. So-
may go to another night because we can't get a quorum.
Right.
All right, so the warrant would then have the location changed to the annex. Any other changes before we go to sign?
Stick with the 7 PM start. That's what you said previously.
Yeah, that's good. Doors open at 6:30. All right,
For a good seat?
yeah. All right, can I have a motion to review signing the warrant?
And if you see fit, maybe if you want to put in just subject to any final legal, town council review, and I'll specifically review what's in the concern that was raised in Article 2.
The motion we approve and sign the warrant as presented with the exception of the review from town council on Article 2, any pending modification to that.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so I guess we've kind of started to talk about town meeting logistics. We can review the draft motions if there's any comments on those.
I know I put this in my email, but just really for primarily for the benefit of the newer, FinCom members, the motions really can change right up until town meeting. And even though this town goes through a lot of, advanced thoughts to write them all up, once something's on the floor of town meeting, any voter can make a motion. So just because the board, the FinCom and the moderator, who gonna write up the motion so that it's all kind of has the right verbiage, because there is some very important language in there on sunsets and on, unspent funds reverting to the fund from which they came. There's important language in there. Any voter can make a motion on any article. So as opposed to the warrant, once that's posted, that is the article language. The motions there is, so if you catch something like next week or, it's not too late on the motions.
Yes.
I've said this before, but I'm just gonna say it again because it's important to me. I feel like having everything all orchestrated to this extent suppresses the ability of the voters to participate in town meeting. There was a time when voters stood up and made motions regularly, and people who represented different boards or organizations who had an article on the warrant would be the ones to make the motion. And people who felt very comfortable suggesting amendments to things and those kind of things. And I've noticed at the last number of town meetings that the participation by the voters in the whole process of getting the motions on the floor or getting them amended has been very, very low. To the point where at one meeting, I didn't see one voter stand up and speak until the very end of the meeting, and it was Mr. Baker. But having said that, I think that there's a happy medium between having the motions clear and thought out, which is good and important, and having it so orchestrated that people don't feel that it's their meeting. So I would encourage a little bit more openness in the process of especially since we no longer read the articles, we go straight to the motion. It seems like the entire process has been already laid out for everyone ahead of time, and all the voters need to do is just raise their hand and be flipped.
So what would you propose changing? I mean, no committees have brought forward articles.
Well,
So-
I think it's something we need to discuss, Bundy, because we've changed the way that the meeting runs completely. And what I'm just saying is, I'm not terribly thrilled with the way the reading is right now. I don't have a particularly better idea to present right now. I'd be more than happy to discuss it with you, but I really feel like the voters need to feel that they're part of the meeting.
I agree. I just don't know what to change to make that happen.
We should just discuss it.
Okay, well, for this town meeting or for the next town meeting?
For the next town meeting, I mean, this one's done.
I think
It's
it,
upon us.
what's that?
It's upon us, so it's a
Yeah.
little late to be.
I mean, typically the sponsor makes the motion and that's the case in this, it just happens that if the 12 substantive articles, the 11 are sponsored by the select board and one sponsored by the water commission, and they'll make that article. That make that motion.
Yes.
Madam Chair, could I just insert that this practice is common in other towns at town meeting? I think we could do a little research and we could watch some videos, or I can just reach out to my other town clerk friends, but it's pretty standard, the motions being prepared beforehand, because like I was talking with Rebecca about the motions and how specific they have to be. And she was saying, if you don't include a certain word afterwards, it affects the borrowing, it affects what we can do. So I think that part's really important, and it's not really something that is unique here.
Good, thanks.
It's definitely no different from what was going on in 2018 when I started, like not one iota different.
Okay.
Good question, Warren.
Sure.
I should have asked it on the article versus the motion. Article 10, where it said you need clarification from council on the special event permit on some public property.
Yeah, is that accurate?
With the intention, not that.
Right, but based on reading of that bylaw, is it accurate that it only applies to public property?
With the exception, if you had it on private property and impacted
Right,
negatively the sidewalks or the roads, but that's in the policy itself.
right. So that was why I flagged it for just, because I just want to make sure, because there's no, that word doesn't have to be in there. Of in the motion, so I don't want it to be in the motion if it's not 100% accurate. It would be fine to strike it, I know that's been an important issue to the board, so. If it is only applicable to public, then that should be in the motion, but if it's not, then I think that should be changed.
Thank you.
Anything else? About town meeting logistics or motions or anything? Right. Best to adjourn if you want.
Oh, we have one more thing. We just have to approve our minutes from the last meeting. Everybody? Approve. Second? Or second? With compliments?
Dan's gonna speed read.
All in favor? We adjourn? Is the motion for him?
Yeah.
Second. Okay, all in favor? Thank you.
All right, thanks, Tom.
Ladies and gentlemen,
You're gonna have to do that. Thank you. It's pretty much already. ready.
It's just.
Good.
Thank you.
All right. Some announcements before we start the second part of the meeting, fall town meetings that just take place on Monday, the 3rd, at the annex. Late breaking news. And then always a call for volunteers. There's a complete list of openings on the town webpage under the volunteer. Regular business, item A is a public comment. Anybody here wish to make a public comment? None, we'll move on to the town manager updates.
Right, want to, hope you'll join me in welcoming our new conservation agent, Dan Callahan. I included his resume in the packet. He's, just been here about 2 weeks, so really just finding his feet. He's got a lot of terrific experience, great educational background as well. This is his first town office job, so he's definitely got a learning curve on some of the regulatory aspects, but has worked in regulatory environments. So I think we're very excited to have him on board. He's been involved with a number of key meetings in his first couple of weeks. On things like the stormwater regs and the culverts and you know, the river road and so forth. So we're getting more and more involved with some of the you know, issues, and I know Molly has been in here quite often working with him directly, as well as he's been working with other staff just to get a better understanding of what they do, how what he does interacts. And so I think we couldn't be happier. It was obviously a long period of vacancy in that position. Molly did incredible work to keep things running with Jane Gary's support, and we're finally up to full staffing in that office. So that's great. A couple of procurement updates. The very exciting news on the pickleball. We have the bid opening earlier this week. We have been working with the low bidder. And it's a firm that has terrific experience doing recreational facilities, a lot of athletic fields, but on their list, they had like 5-page list of references with detailed descriptions of what they've done, who the client was, what the year was, what the budget was, and the contact information, and each of the 5 pages probably had 15 to 20, I mean, they had a lot of references. And of those, there were 8 or 10 that were either tennis or pickleball courts, and the rest were mostly ball fields, stadiums, fields, turf fields. So they really have specialized in recreational facilities. Caitlin contacted a number of references. They were all excellent, not even like good, like excellent, on budget, on time, excellent to work with. So we have gone ahead and awarded that contract. And we had a remote meeting with them earlier today, Butch and Caitlin and myself, and had a very favorable impression. We're going to meet on site next week. They had, been out on site. They know we walked through the scope because their bid was enough lower than the next lowest bid that we wanted to make sure they were fully clear on the scope, but they understood everything. Obviously, part of the bid process, they attested to having received all the addenda and so on. So on paper, it was all clear, but we just wanted to talk through and make sure, we weren't going to have any surprises. And they understood everything about, the wall, all the specifications, the sequencing, seemed to have a real, very solid approach to the project. So we're going to meet them on site next week. That's not going to be the official pre-construction meeting. That'll more just be getting to know each other, and then we'll get a pre-construction meeting on the calendar for later in October. That'll include, land and conservation and everything. So that's very exciting. And it did come in obviously within budget, with a little bit of room for, if there's modest change orders, there's enough, there's about 10% delta between their bid and the budget price. So some amount of change could be absorbed, but it's a small project. We don't expect change orders, but
Just make sure you sign.
yeah, thank you.
Look for number 1 before you get number 2.
I'll make note of that.
So, will it start this year? Or is it
Yes,
just the-
yeah, that was a material issue in the invitation for bid, and what was that they start and they get the base course paving done this calendar year. As I think the board is aware, that appeared before the Concom last Monday, a week ago, to request the extension of the time of year restriction. And they did approve an extension to December 15th, weather permitting, and subject to the Concom chair or designee basically okaying it, that it's not going to be a weather issue. So if we have mild weather, they could work as late as December 15th. And at the time we put it out for bid, we had put in the bid November 15th, even though the decision was October. We knew it was October 15th, it wasn't going to happen.
Right.
But we knew we would request an extension. What I didn't know was that Concom would be comfortable with a 2-month extension. So all 6 bidders knew that there was a November 15th deadline to get that initial work done. So when we were able to issue the addendum saying that they would have till December 15th, that was, welcome news for everybody. But the bids, actually, we issued the addendum before the bids were closed. So everyone knew when they put in the bid, they would have as late as December 15th.
Great.
Let's see, the next item, the meeting with First Witten. I think I really told you guys about this already at the meeting a week ago, but I think, when was that planning board meeting? I lose track.
Last week.
But anyhow, it's on the planning board's radar, and they're aware that some of these regs are that are gonna need to be updated are within their authority. So that's something you can expect to hear more about, but that's not like a town meeting issue. At least the regs aren't. Let's see, a couple of other updates. I attended this meeting, the mayor's managers meeting yesterday morning at MVPC, very worthwhile. A couple of major topics were climate resiliency. We talked a lot about the MVP grant and some of the shared challenges a lot of the communities have, including on things like the permitting requirements, the soft costs associated with climate resiliency projects, and hoping to try to get some kind of cohesive advocacy to the state to see what they can do to streamline that and reduce taxpayer costs associated with soft costs, to the extent feasible. The other topic that was a main focus of yesterday's meeting was cybersecurity. I had asked Christian to join me because he's the town's cybersecurity coordinator, so he was also there. It's very worthwhile. They had a pretty high level person from the state, and we did a whole tabletop exercise, and it was I think a very worthwhile thing. He and I do have it on our work plan to put together a written incident response plan. And I think that, yesterday's meeting just reinforces how important that is, that, if you do get subject to this, that everybody in the organization knows exactly what their role is. So that's something that's on the work plan to get done this calendar year. And then a couple of other just brief updates. I alluded to it earlier, but we did have an in-person meeting with the auditor. That was essentially for them to share their initial observations coming out of the field work that took place over the summer and last month. And so they walked through with us all of their observations, and generally very, very positive. We're not expecting any negative management comments. There are a couple of housekeeping items that they'll walk through, but nothing that was any concern. There's something about the Affordable Housing Trust is reported as in one section is there's been a change to the GASB, and it's got to be reported in different sections. There's going to be some things that Jenny will adjust in how she tracks certain funds. But there was a very positive meeting. We did talk about the whole issue of the library trust, and they were both the library and the Elliott Fund. They were satisfied with the documentation we provided, that both of those are properly reported, properly accounted for. And while it may be a housekeeping item to work toward having a more formal modern trust, that's not something the auditor sees as something that's necessary or a real concern. So that was good news. And let's see, the last item, I just want to make the board aware, I am signed up to attend 2 all-day seminars or workshops next week. It's unfortunate they both fall the same week, but they're both very, very important. One is the annual every year right around this time, MMA runs a What's New in Municipal Law. That's an all-day seminar down at Bentley College. So Jenny and Christian and I are all going to that on Tuesday. So I will be online, but I'll be out of the office. And then next Thursday, there's a all-day labor relations seminar out in Central Mass, run by Mass Municipal Human Resource Association, which I'm part of. And Rebecca and I are both going to be attending that. So I'll be remote Tuesday and Thursday next week.
Very good. Right, under C, action items, the first is a request for appointment to the Open Space Committee. I think Lisa's here.
She is.
Yeah. Hey, Lisa.
Hey there.
So any questions for Lisa?
Should be great in an open space.
Yeah, I think it's a good connection with the ag community. So this is a full position, right? Or is it an associate? It is the name, yeah.
Let's see.
Carol, do you know if this is an associate position or not?
Looks like there's one open seat, one member seat open and one associate. So I believe this
It's a full position. Sorry, I couldn't get my
Okay.
mute off. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Lisa would be a voting member.
Yep. So,
Expire when?
yeah, can you tell from the, I guess the webpage doesn't tell you when it expires, right?
No, I have to pull up the bylaw.
All right. I think they're staggered, so they're not all the same.
Okay.
So can we make a motion with that to be determined? Like, for the chart?
Well, the seat has, yeah, the seat.
Whatever the duration. of
Whatever the
that open
duration
seat
of
is.
that seat is, yeah.
I'll make a motion to appoint Lisa Bulber to the open space committee for the open position, for the duration of the position currently open.
So Lisa, will you represent the open space committee on the CPC? Will you do two committees at once, or I guess this is a,
Yeah, I'm not sure because, well, so that's for the housing authority. So I think they're both maybe on Wednesday. I'm not sure, but it may be alternating Wednesdays. Is that right? I mean, we usually
yeah,
meet.
they're not on the same Wednesday.
Yeah, so I think it's fine. I think I can do that.
Okay, great. All right, all in favor? All right. All right, thank
Thank
you,
you,
Lisa.
Lisa.
Thank you.
All right, item B is a request for approval of permission for Stuart Georgitis to bow hunt on Sawmill Brook property. So the select board is in the process of formulating a hunting program based on the hunting working groups work. That will not be ready for this year. Stuart was a member of the hunting working group and he has hunted on this property for many, many years when it was privately owned. So this is a discussion if we will grandfather his use of the property to bow hunt just for this coming season until the formal program is up and running. So any questions from either of you on the application?
I think we've discussed it at the previous meetings that once we get the application filled in, which you
Yeah.
done.
So we did notice that the signature, I meant to print out a copy. You didn't sign the waiver. Oh,
Yeah, no, I was gonna report that tonight.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
Rebecca has that.
Great.
We've got that in the office.
So I did have one question for you. In your email, you mentioned two other people that might be with you helping. That's not on the application, right?
No, it's up if there was any direct question regarding
Yeah.
that, but.
So
It's
they,
just a matter if I get an animal, if I harvest an animal,
Yeah.
I call them up and they'll come and help me get it out of the woods.
okay, so they're hunting with you. That was my question,
There
whether.
was a question prior to that, whether they could hunt with me or not, but that seemed to be a problem.
I think it would be.
Because they're not residents, so I'm just gonna table that.
Okay, great. So I think you had raised the question about the signage. So is that something we can work with? Who would we work with? in town?
Yeah, I mean, we posted some things of no hunting. We could just, I think it's very simple signage, something along the lines of this area is sanctioned for bow hunting. From these dates to the state to this date. I mean, at least what I had envisioned was something that would be printed on brightly colored paper, laminated. We have a laminator in the health department. And then I was envisioning posting at every point of access to the property. So like every trailhead, I think at the discussion last week, Chris, you might be envisioning something, whatever you guys want done is fine.
Yeah, I think along Poorhouse Lane, every, I don't know, 200 feet, what the appropriate distance is. Just, I mean, there's no trailhead there, but just abundance of caution. Do you have any input on that, Jack?
Yeah, I mean, people come to that space from different directions.
Yeah.
So that the juncture of the Sawmill Brook and the Mill Pond property, for example, just beyond the Alms House Cemetery, you don't know you're walking into a different space, and you are. You're moving into a completely different, it's got a different management plan and everything, and the signage is gonna look different, so.
So maybe at the end of each Mill Pond Trail that goes on to Poorhouse Lane.
Yeah, something that's getting you into the area.
Yeah, there's a couple of trailheads that come out of Mill Pond onto, House Lane. And so probably maximum, maybe 3 signs are necessary for those entry points.
Yeah,
And then the entry point, the side of the Longest House with some of what property begin. So I would put up, to be thorough, I'd put up 4. And I'd be happy to put them up for you.
Are these just for the season?
Yeah.
These signs, yeah, notices.
Yeah, this whole thing is just right now, it's just a one-off, season.
yeah. Any other questions from board members?
I'll make a comment. I think, the signage is only to sort of help people on the property, where it's a bow hunting, it's totally different than if he's using a firearm, so.
Right.
His target is gonna be fairly close, he's gonna see it, and I don't know of any incident where I've heard of a bow hunter accidentally shooting a person.
Right.
It's totally, because I've got a bow hunter on my property, so it's a whole different dynamic.
Yeah.
So the signage is convenient, but it's not. Critical.
And I do like this addition that was made last week of the advance notice, 12 hours advance notice of public safety. The idea is, you know, if someone's out there walking and they see someone with a bow and arrow and they call the cops, it's important for the cops to say, no, he's there, he's allowed to be there, it's no problem, rather than if someone picks up and they're like, oh my God, and then, you know, and then that could not go well.
Yeah, I did share this with Chief Dwyer, so he's aware and he shared with dispatch, so.
Yeah, so I think that, you know, the signage is great, and that's an additional kind of preemptive step just to make sure there's not any alarms.
Right.
Angus, can I just make one point? Could you also,
Go through the chair.
to also let the riding club know, if you're telling public safety, just let the riding club know? No,
Well,
I mean, they're the ones that would tend to wander in there, you know?
yeah, but still, I think that's where the signs would help, but. Yeah. I'm not agreeing to that on a formal basis, but I can reach out to them.
Yeah, they should be safe.
The commotion endorse allowing Stuart Georgitis to hunt on the Sawmill Brook bow hunt on the Sawmill Brook property. This hunting season through December 30 this year. And I also want to make sure the phrasing is it based on grandfathering him property previously.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. So we'll sign the permission form, and if you just, keep that with you, and then we'll also send a copy of it as well.
Do all this stuff by tomorrow?
That'd be great.
Stuart puts up the signs, could he just snap a photo of each one for verification?
Do you want to have employees put them up, or?
Wherever, I mean, I would welcome the help.
Okay.
I mean, yeah, we won't have them, you know, printed tomorrow, but I mean, we could. Rebecca, my assistant's out tomorrow. She's at a training in the morning. So, but you know, I don't want to slow you down. What would be your next intent to go out there? Would it be this weekend or?
Yeah, probably, but
So,
I can wait, it's not.
no, you waited. Well, you know, but Concom's gotta act Monday anyway.
Oh, right.
Right. That was under the conservation restriction. Hunting is an allowed use, but it has to be granted by the property owner, which is not the select board, it's the Concom.
Yeah, so that was on the form, and I've already mentioned it to them, so that they'll discuss it Monday night, so that gives us time to.
Yeah, we can run up and laminate those signs by Monday, and I've talked to the conservation agent and he's aware. And this is on their agenda for Monday.
Yeah, well, just whenever Dan and you guys are ready, just
Okay.
contact me, it's fine.
Okay.
I'd like to come in and sit down with Dan and go over everything we did last year with the committee anyway.
That'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. But if you could come in tomorrow and sign the permission, because then we can submit that to
Yeah,
them.
he's,
Whatever you guys want.
I think, yeah, he
And
was,
just pick up the.
oh, check up the signed one, yeah, good.
Okay, great, thank you.
Perfect, thank you.
Yeah.
I appreciate it very much.
All right, item C is review of the Mill Pond Committee priorities and discussion whether to do them in the,
You guys want a copy of what I'm gonna read from? Or not?
we have the table and the packet.
I don't,
We're happy to take that.
yeah, I don't know if I put it in the packet, so.
Thank you.
So Jennifer Costain, new chair of the Mill Pond Committee.
I thought in January, right?
What's that?
Didn't we say January? I'm kidding. Okay, so, the areas in sort of in gray at the top, those are the 6 things that the committee is really focused on. And I'm gonna start with 4, 5, and 6, because those are very active in process and should be finished by the end of this calendar year. So there's making adjustments to the dock. That's already been done. The materials to put the extra panel on are there. So that just needs to get finished. Signage regarding the new dog bylaw, I was at the meeting a few weeks ago about that, and I'm working with Max to get that finalized. And we have the picnic table and 2 benches that we had wanted to purchase. So those 4, 5, and 6 items are already gonna be finished by the end of the year. So
Well, so 6 is done, correct?
6 is done.
So 4 and 5 still need staff input, so those are the kinds of things that would just go on the immediate term work plan.
Sure.
Right, so how much work is left on the dock?
It's just attaching the end panel to the panel that exists there. I'd have to ask Brian, like, how much time it's gonna take him, but
Okay,
he was finishing it.
and then on the signage?
The signage, I'm just waiting for Max to give me the prototype of the sign. I talked to him about that today.
Basically.
He was
sent
away,
me-
so.
He sent me a draft to review and I have not had a minute to look at it, so.
Yeah, and I haven't seen it yet, so.
So do you think we should put these 2 items on the work plan, or are they far?
I think the signage is already, I mean, that's
I think it's
essentially.
already on the work.
But somebody's gotta put them up, right? Is that?
Yeah, I think it's just a matter of getting the design finalized and getting them fabricated and posted. I see that as kind of an extension of the bylaw amendments to kind of communicate the
Okay.
bylaw amendments that were approved, so. As opposed to like a standalone project, it's really just a kind of completing the adoption of the bylaw, so.
Okay.
That's how I look at it.
Yeah, that makes sense. One thing that's brought up at the Mill Pond Committee this week was the fact that the bylaw is now in effect communicated to the ACO. I was gonna reach
Yeah,
out to her.
yeah, yep,
Okay, all right.
Yep,
good.
yeah, I did that.
Okay, great. All right, so, and then the dock, do you have any sense of the time involvement on that?
It's been a little while since I talked to Brian, probably a couple of weeks. He's totally comfortable with what he's doing. It's not
Okay.
a workload issue. I have no idea whether there's any permitting involved. I haven't talked to him about that. I don't know, Jen, if that's come up with conservation.
We
Yeah,
work
that's the
with
kind of thing that,
conservation.
gets to a
Yes,
different,
sir.
yes, Brian
Yeah,
might go ahead and just do it without a permit, which if it needs a
Oh, really?
permit, that's not,
Good to know.
the town not exempt from.
Okay.
So, if it needs a permit, someone's gotta work that through the process, do the paperwork, public hearing, notice. I don't know if it's just
all
I
right, so
mean,
that,
Wendy would know best because she was on the commission.
that one might need to be,
Well, I mean, we spent a lot of time talking with Clay about this and with Michelle before that, so, and they did not feel that Concom needed to get involved, so I don't.
but I don't know that the same solution was
What,
discussed.
my understanding with Clay was he said he didn't think it would be an issue. That's not the same as, I think that was his way of saying it would need like what, an RDA, which is basically the commission can then
Yeah.
issue, well, you're rolling your
What?
eyes, but these are.
No, oh, no,
So-
I'm like, ugh,
Yeah, well, so an
because that isn't what he said to us, but that's all right. Do you need us to do something else? I mean, well,
I don't need anything. It's a matter of, do the regulations, does the Wetlands Protection Act require a filing? If it does, it needs to happen. If it doesn't, it doesn't. That's not something my office or this board
Yeah, so
determines.
I would suggest asking to be on a conservation commission agenda.
Okay.
And just, it could just be as a discussion item, and they could give you guidance. Perhaps Dan could come down and look at it with you prior to the meeting, but that's okay. So I would put that on the work plan for the immediate.
okay,
The intention is to do it by the end of the calendar year, is that
Yeah.
correct? Yeah.
The determination of applicability is simply the Concom determining, does the Wetland Protection Act apply or not? And if it doesn't, it's fine. And if it does, then it means a filing is needed.
Or if it applies and there's minimal impact, they may put a
Yeah.
condition on it to allow. it.
But that's not something anyone other than the Concom has the authority to decide that.
Yeah,
So
so
going-
if Clay or Michelle told you, it has to go by the Concom.
so going forward though, this, and I know Dan is brand new. Should I be expecting him to know that something should go to the Conservation Commission, or should I just always be contacting them? You know, I feel like the conservation agent's sort of in the middle here, so.
Right, so the agent reports to the commission, so you would start with the agent and
Right,
then ask to be on an agenda if it wasn't.
I would ask to be on the
Yes.
agenda, not the
Yes.
conservation agent.
If you're the proponent of the project, it would be up to you to ask.
Okay. Good. Okay, any questions about 4, 5, and 6? Cause those are in process. 7 and 8 on that list are ongoing, they're happening all the time and they're sort of in an ongoing fashion. We missed a wonderful fishing derby. And last weekend, we had 64 kids. They were pulling 15-inch fish out of the pond like crazy. It was wonderful.
So these are the kinds of things that would not need to be on the work plan because they don't necessitate any staff time. So.
Okay, so,
For the select board, for the town work plan.
Yeah.
The objective of that is to try to get, to manage all the committee projects that consume staff time.
so it's really staff time, it's not a budgetary issue. It's not, the budget is separate.
The work plan is specifically about staff.
Staff,
Yeah.
okay.
Not to say that the budget is not.
Yeah,
Something that should.
of course.
But yeah.
Yeah, well, I didn't know if it had a budget, if there was a budget implication, if it needed to be on the work plan. Okay, any questions about that? We can just do 1, 2, and 3. Okay, the first one is the trail marking, and I know that's on the management plan.
the
Where,
work plan,
since the work plan. The first time they got quotes was in 2019, so we've been working on this for a while. And they've got the materials ready to order, so they're in the process right now of working with Caitlin Barker to go through the purchasing process.
And this is a CPA funded project.
Yes, and that money's already been approved.
Okay,
The second item is we talked about this actually the last time I was here, about added parking barriers along the edge of the pond. And Chris, you had suggested we look at using some of that granite from the bridge. I've learned since then that at least some of that granite is allocated to the new pickleball court, but there is a pile of sort of big chunks of
There's a lot of granite. I'm
There's a-
pretty sure it can.
back there, so.
It's really gonna be up to you guys, yeah.
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 I mean, we want the chunks, we don't want the nice sit-on pieces,
Right,
we want
yeah.
chunks, we want barriers. So,
so it might be good to look at it and see how many you think you need.
yeah,
You know?
yeah,
Um,
okay,
So I think this is something that should go on the work plan because that will need,
Yeah.
DPW time to move and all of that. So what was your time frame for this, like next spring?
yeah.
Okay, so that would go on the near term, that would be.
And it obviously involves DPW, because they've got to move the rocks.
Does that require any Concom approval?
Well, that's something that should be.
Yeah.
discussed. I would
Well, I just think
suggest
if you go in for
discussing
one
both.
discussion with.
Yeah, oh,
Concom,
good point.
too.
Yeah.
Do it too for, good point.
Yeah, I mean, there's not gonna be any earth disturbance if you're just laying the rocks there.
They may have actually already done that, we've been doing this for so long, but I'll go back, because they were talking posts
Right,
before,
which
which is even more disruptive, right, because they're digging and. Okay, come on, that's a good one. Okay, and then the third one is really just an inventory project. There's all kinds of signage all throughout the space, and now a lot of it conflicts with reality. So like there's all dogs must be leashed. That's not really true. I mean, it's true sometimes, but not always. There were kind of random signs all over. So we just wanted to take an inventory and make some recommendations about kind of a standardized look. And if it's a regulation, a town regulation thing, it probably should have a seal on it, that kind of thing. But this isn't implementation. This is really just doing an assessment, making some recommendations. And if we can get it done before the budget in the spring, we might be able to get some funding proposal put together. But it's really let's clean up the space.
Okay.
And because communication with our users is something we're spending a lot of time talking about. And, I think the new dog signs are gonna be really helpful. It's gonna be really
That will
helpful.
take up time from town employees eventually, so should it not be on the
I think
plan?
it should be on the work
Yeah.
plan. So are you thinking spring for that?
Probably.
So that would be another year.
But it's just an inventory.
Yeah, but my
So-
feeling is if the committee's doing work and sending recommendations, that's, in my opinion, that's great. It only becomes like if there's an expectation that it's gonna then happen, that's the thing that we just need to make sure that baton is passed.
That's right.
Clearly, because what sometimes happens is the committee puts in a lot of good work. And then, you might have been working on it for a while, but if there wasn't and this is great, because the communication is now like, wide open, which is how we want it, so. Yeah, so that if, like, you sent recommendations next, like, May or June, and we're like, well, geez, we just adopted the budget, like, now we.
Yeah.
You know, so that's where, like, just getting this to sync, it's, the implementation of it is what takes staff time, but if you have ideas.
Yeah, we just wanna clean it up. I
Yeah.
mean, it's the signs all over the place there, you know, and they.
But specific ideas, and I know you do, I know you do, but. you know.
I actually don't. I actually don't. I
Well,
just would
that's-
like to
I mean,
clean it up. I'd
that-
like to clean it
that-
up. And communicate better.
That's more like,
So, I
okay,
think-
someone else has to figure out
The
how.
way you,
to-
no, but we're putting a group together. That's the whole point. The committee is gonna,
Right, the committee will
Come up
have
with it.
specific recommendations,
yes.
which are then actionable by the town to put
That's right.
into a budget.
And you might say no.
I still think it's good to have it on the work plan, even if you're doing the work, because it will eventually lead.
It will turn into something,
Yeah,
right?
So I think inventory what's there is a good first step, and
Yeah.
then if you can make recommendations to the board, I think that'd be,
Right, and that's the scope of this.
Yeah,
I mean,
that's
that's all it
great.
is. It's just to make some recommendations.
all right. Any,
And that's really it. I mean, the rest of it is just ongoing stuff and we're working with conservation on invasive species. So Dan's gonna be great.
so I'm only looking at the 2-year priorities,
Yeah,
because the work plan also is FY 27 and beyond, so. If there are things here that you think should be on the town work plan, even though it's not gonna happen for a couple of years. Specifically, maybe, repairs to the mill pond building, that might be
I think
something.
both 3 and 4, that would be, should be on the plan, right?
Yeah.
Again, it's just so nobody gets surprised at the end and you say, can we do
Sure.
this? It's not on the work plan, that is what you hear. If it is,
You know, I
I'd
get it.
rather have it be there.
I'm used to it's not in the budget. I know that line. Can't do that, not in the budget.
All right, so these would be long-term.
Yeah.
And so next year, so every year we'll review the work plan, and some things from long-term may come into immediate
Yeah.
or near term.
Or something
not
we may
needed.
pop up. Okay.
Right?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
Playoffs. What's that?
It's baseball.
So we want to have a motion to add these items.
Which items, I mean, we just.
Items 2 and 3 would be near term, item 4 would be immediate, and item 3 and 4 on 2-year priority would be long term,
We'll take that as a motion.
right? Would you second?
Yes.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, folks.
Thank you.
And item D, review of the agricultural committee questionnaire. Rich?
When we did this, we told you it wasn't gonna cost anything at all, and one thing I've learned is you can't set up a committee without having at least some impact on staff.
Yeah. So I mean, it's good for you to have sat through that, because I think some of these projects should be on the work plan as well, so.
And I don't know if you have any questions on this. I feel we've had one meeting and just trying to get things started.
Yeah, that's great.
If I could just clarify one thing for Rich, I think this will be helpful. So to the extent something's required by the bylaw, which some of these things are, that becomes part of the town's like baseline responsibilities. That's not something that's, I think the work plan is really for stuff that's over and above. So for instance, the notice that it's a right farm community, that's required by the bylaw. So that basically affects, the day-to-day responsibilities of the staff to do that. It's really
Yeah, so like the leasing of the town fields for agriculture, that's
that's more of like a project that, yeah, right.
So I did have questions about, is Max the designated support person for the ag committee?
No.
Okay, so he's listed for,
That's my request, but,
well, we need to decide that.
right,
Yeah, so. Updating, so the responsibility for posting the agenda, that's the town clerk's office, that's not really a separate.
Correct, yeah.
So you would prepare it and then submit it.
Right.
But the website updating and the town staff liaison, do you have any thoughts about that? Angus?
I think
Because there is gonna be some staff level support needed for the.
Oh, yeah, things like updating web, committee web pages are things that are housed in the town clerk's office. So between Amanda and Max, she's the department head, he reports to her. So it's her office's, part of their responsibility, that office responsibility is to help keep the website current. So if there's changes, I gotta talk to her about, like, is she comfortable people sending work direct to Max, or would she rather go to the department and then she can delegate?
Yeah, I think-
Because that can start to get to be an issue just from a management standpoint. But it's the town clerk's, part of their responsibilities are to keep the website updated. So if you have changes, you can just let them know. I would say let them both know, and who between the two of them gets that done is, she's the
Yeah, she
department.
did ask, board committee chairs to send it to both her and Matt.
Yeah.
And they decide, so that's.
Yeah, I think that's good advice on that. As far as a committee liaison, not every, committee has a formal liaison. I think this one, depending on the type of issue, some of this is gonna be, I think, of great interest to the conservation agent. Others is, I think, gonna be of great interest to Butch, where with his responsibilities for kind of overseeing land and,
And health agent, if there are complaints. about-
yeah, so I think I think this is something that as we, at a staff level, get a better idea of what you're trying to do. We can make sure that the right staff are like plugged in on those issues. I don't see this as being a committee that there's gonna be like a staff person coming to every meeting. It's more like that you have clarity if you're trying to do X, Y, or Z, you kind of know who to contact. And that they know you're gonna contact them, so they know what's expected of them.
And I've found I've been calling like every week, okay, what rooms are available and, open meeting law things where it might be considered a discussion, but if a staff member sends the email out, it kind of, it would alleviate some of those issues.
What a committee can communicate among a quorum for the sole purpose of scheduling. You just can't deliberate, and that is definitely something that a committee chair is responsible for pinning down the date and time of the meeting.
Yes.
And we do have committees that ask us to poll their members, and that's not.
So what were you
There
referring
are
to?
people that need clarification here on that.
Sure,
Because, that's my understanding.
that's open meeting,
And I can-
that's correct.
I can send something out, what needs to be on the agenda? We can't talk about it, but they can say back, that's my understanding of it. But there was a little bit of pushback on that.
About agenda collaboration.
I don't know that specifically, so. for the
Bootstrapping a
date
new
and time.
committee was very interesting.
Date and time definitely,
Not,
daytime location definitely.
yeah,
I mean, if I'm just trying to play it out, like if, let's say Ross was to email Wendy and say, we really need to have this topic, is that deliberation? Because you've now tipped your hand that like you haven't said what you think the board should do, but you've kind of said, oh, I think this should. I mean, the way this board handles it, at the end of every meeting, they talk about future agenda items, and that's the chance for Chris or Ross to say, hey, Chair, we want you to deal with this issue. But that's all in an open meeting, so
Once they get up and going, they have that opportunity too.
yeah,
So,
yeah.
that'll eliminate
Yeah,
that
good
problem.
point. I think that's a good way to handle it,
Okay,
because it can get to be a gray area.
to pull for agenda items.
Yeah,
And please don't put items not reasonably anticipated by the chair as an agenda item. That's a violation of open meeting law. Almost
Okay.
every committee does it, no matter how many times they tell them not to do it. So you have a fresh start here.
okay,
Please do not do.
I'm learning.
Okay, good.
But Rich, you could also, for things that come up between meetings, because right now we're planning to meet monthly. You could direct individual members to just reach out to you separately, right? So that we're below the quorum threshold.
Yeah.
There's 5 people on.
it's just suggesting agenda items. I don't see a problem with that. I'm not the end all be all on open meeting law, so I think, we could ask Amanda, I think that's fine.
Yeah, that's different than emailing the whole group and saying.
Right. And I think, Ross, you're right about that, because it's below But, Board of Assessors, I've got 3, and we couldn't do that.
Yeah,
But fortunately, we've got a good staff there who we can communicate with, and then they can put it on the agenda.
so in terms of, the question staff support needed, so collect right to farm notices, so. I don't recall now, is that happening in town clerk's office?
Yeah.
Okay,
That was the agreement.
Yeah, that's what's in the bylaw.
all right, and then sending out the right to farm notices, that will be through the Board of Assessors mailing or no?
I believe that's through the tax bills.
I think that's where it would go.
Yeah, I think that's
I
what
also
the
heard,
treasurer's office, yeah.
there was another mailing going out to the town. But we're not gonna be ready for that,
Okay.
my guess is we probably won't make the January bills. It may be March, but we'll see, if we've got everything ready, maybe we can make.
But even if there's not a complete insert, you can put it on the tax bill. Caitlin she can put custom language on the tax bill. So at least to get something, and even if it's gonna take longer to have like a standalone flyer, is that what you've envisioned, as a flyer?
We haven't gotten far enough to envision that,
Okay,
but
all right.
even. I like your idea, just print it on the tax bill and. Then we're done with that,
Mhm.
but then we have to figure out how to deal with the real estate agents,
Separate.
There were some good ideas at the last meeting that were good. I think at one point they're talking about like some nice signing when you drive into West Newbury. During a road to the farm, community or something. Yeah. There's some good ideas coming out of that discussion. But I guess as those things crop up, we would be communicating them to the select board about getting prioritized and work fire.
Yeah. So you might also want to start thinking about a budget. That will be coming up.
when's the budget due?
Generally, so I send. Yeah, so it'd be right around the first of the year,
Okay,
give or take. I mean, ideally, it would be more like before Christmas, but in 7 years, I've never been able to get my budget package out in time to set that deadline.
Mhm.
And based on how this year is going, there's no reason to think I'm getting further ahead than.
Yeah.
Well, also Butch has a certain amount in his budget for signage.
Yeah, there's certain, if it's small dollar items, it's actually like, just talk to me, because if it's like. I mean, sometimes you have committees, they wanna propose a budget of $200. It's more work, carry that through the process than simply like Chris said. There's lines for signs and for different things,
Even a notice in the bill if you had to.
yeah, oh god, I would just absorb that in the town manager expense budget, like it's not even worth. The time it takes to work that through the process, it's,
Okay. Are we gonna go back to the priorities?
Yeah, so just thinking about the work plan, the support farming, that's more of a general thing. There's no specific projects with that, but the item number 3, we've talked about before. And just wondering what you're thinking about that. I mean, obviously you would not be empowered to sign a lease or
No.
anything, but if you are going to inventory properties, I think that could be really useful.
And that's why I went to open space last night. I didn't get where I wanted to go with that
Yeah.
discussion.
Yeah.
And talking to Butch, it's like, okay, how's this being managed right now? And if somebody is managing it, then maybe we only handle publicity and trying to get people to bid on the leases. If nobody's managing it, and I haven't figured that out yet, I've been calling around.
It's not actually a lease though, is it?
it's a license,
A license, yeah, because there's one up on the Dunn.
that's the only one,
Okay, and that's kind of a squishy
it is,
document, so.
yeah.
Now, pre-Angus, which many years ago, the backfield up at Mill Pond used to be in corn. I don't know if you remember
It
that.
always was. I haven't been out there since then, so I don't know.
But it hasn't been for years because when we took the grant to dredge Mill Pond, we got 800,000 from the state. Nobody knew at the time, somebody did. There was a criteria, you couldn't have row crops anymore because that's what was causing the pond to silt in. So they just let it go fallow into fields, but that could be farmed in some other method. And we've got other parcels in town that should get looked at. I'd love to see it on the work plan. And
Yeah, so, and what item would that be for them to gather a list of?
I think you have to inventory the properties,
Yeah.
find out if there's interest. I mean, you could make a list of potential contract farmers who do that kind of thing. You know, you've got Kimball, you've got Tender Crop. You know, he does those two at least. Kimball's been on Maple Street planting everything lately. And there are people who do just hay, which is highly desirable, better than having it getting just mowed.
And I envision that, there may be people in town who own cows who are looking for pasture. And some of this area may be pastured, maybe there's someone along Main Street who would love to farm, but only has a quarter acre. That they could have an area out back.
These are issues for you to look at, but it should be great, yeah.
Right, but this is very, very early in the thought process. I love the idea. But
So what would you say this is, not a long term, because that's FY 27, maybe the second half of this fiscal year, like the spring, to start working on it?
right, I mean, right now it's inventory and start asking around and
Yeah.
see what type of interest. And then you get all sorts of different questions with improvements, you know, with a license or a lease. Do you approve it with fertilizing it or liming it? If you've got cows, do you put a little lean-to up for them? You know, you've got to deal with the Board of Health if you've got animals there and it's near a water supply. There's a thousand issues that I've run through my head, but we haven't met to enough times to really start hashing this out. I mean, when I talked last night to Open Space, they were concerned about, butterflies and, mowing too early and, so there's a lot that needs to go into this, and we're not there yet. But I don't think we need to solve every problem by this year. We could, but if we get it on a path, we'll work it through in a year or two.
Yeah, so this is something that's been discussed by the select board, something we want to work on, so having you do the legwork and at least inventory what's out there, I think would be very helpful. I just would caution about getting too far along with negotiating with people and all of that, without keeping us in the loop, but I guess Ross being on that committee.
I would negotiate with people. First, I would come up with an inventory of properties, what your vision is, like you said, lease versus license, and then criteria. I mean, you don't want people out there with too many pesticides and chemicals, and you got to decide what would be most beneficial to the town and to the land.
Yeah.
Right,
So-
and I would never expect us to have the authority to enter into an agreement. That's your job, and us, best cases, we would maybe do an RFP and then bring options to you.
I think it would be better if you keep us involved more
Yes.
than less, especially just starting out, until we figure out where this is headed.
And I don't know, I still don't know who mowed those fields this year and under what organization they were mowed.
Which fields?
Middle and Indian Hill was mowed. Andrea's property was mowed. I think some of Dunn's fields were mowed.
I don't know about John's, I think Indian Hill, that would be DPW, right, I guess,
Well, I've got a call in the Butch.
yeah.
Yeah, Andreas, that's a water property. They have a contractor who does their mowing.
Okay.
Yeah, so I think, you probably picked up from the conversation last night that there may be some inherent conflict in farming versus pollinator habitat.
Right.
So that's something that would be language.
So I went and looked at the Indian Hill and Middle Street property coming home from that meeting. And all I could see beyond it was wetlands that nobody mows, that's all reeds and. There's gonna be a lot of discussion, but West Newbury has so much open space. You've got miles of open wetlands and stuff down out back. By the Crane Pond area.
Yeah.
Yeah,
All right.
you're right, but I'm glad I went to that meeting.
Because now you know, yeah.
Right, but I've got, there's other committees I wanna talk to, Mill Pond I should talk to.
Mhm.
Just is we try to find our place in the town environment here.
Yeah. I think, the town-owned land, unless it's under conservation restrictions, under the care and custody of the select board, so that would be like the
Or
first.
the water commission. So,
True.
yeah, there's certain properties like Andreas that's under their care and custody.
And there's some that I've seen that the Conservation Commission.
Yeah, so there's a CR on it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so those would be the entities that ultimately, you would be dealing with, but, yeah, so why don't we add that to the work plan?
Great.
Yeah, anything else you would like to see the ag committee work on?
I think that and their basic charge, which is
Yeah.
gonna keep them pretty busy to start, so anything else might be overloaded.
Did you discuss, farmer's market? I know that was a big item when we first started.
Way too early for that.
Yeah, I just do brainstorming yet, but,
We did some but there's just a lot more to go. But we want to make sure we don't start out by stomping on feet either.
Meaning eventually you're going to?
Hopefully not, but, you put a new commission in there, there's gonna be some overlap, we just gotta work through it.
yeah. Well,
And I think this is an excellent, tool, even with the things that we shouldn't need to, because it's under the bylaw. Just so that everybody focuses on the fact there is some work that needs to be done and someone's gotta be assigned to it.
Yeah.
So thank you for putting this together.
Yeah, I appreciate you stepping up to be chair because, the other people don't really have an understanding of how open meeting law and all that works, so I think it's really helpful.
And I've kind of developed a skill set of starting organizations, so,
Good. All right. Thank
Thank
for
you.
coming in.
Thanks, Rachel.
Thanks.
have a good evening.
Right, item E, review of the Mass DER grant.
So this is a really interesting issue. It came up, as you saw from the email thread, really is not something we were looking for. We heard directly from Georgianne here. I did set up a follow-up Zoom meeting with her. We met actually earlier today, included Butch, Caitlin, and Dan Callahan in that. And basically, this is a follow-on from the work they did last year. They are continuing to try to develop guidance to municipalities dealing with culverts in locations that are not tidal, but that could become tidal over the useful life of the culvert. So let's say a culvert has a design life of 50 years, if based on projected sea level rise, something that's maybe not tidal today, maybe could become tidal over those 50 years. They're working on guidance to municipalities. That's their focus, but part of that is looking at specific locations and actually working up what the design option might be in those locations. So basically, I'll just kind of summarize my notes from today's call. So, their focus is the guidelines, might not be titled now, could be in the future if they like to go, their focus, obviously, Division of Ecological Restoration is the ecological value of culverts, which I think is complementary to ours. We might have our own interests, but that's not inconsistent with the town's interests. We got some money with the prior round to do a couple of case studies, River Road being one of them. And going forward, let's see, there's some discussion about some federal highway specs that Mass DOT, like they're needing to coordinate with DOT on some of this. So they secured additional funding to advance the design, and they've been given authorization to spend monies. This would be the state spending money on their consultant to look at our culvert. This would not be the state giving us money to hire someone and manage that. This would would we consent to them having their engineer, which they assume would be the same firm that they worked with previously, but but that's not official. They have to post what's called a notice of intent to award. which would be they are looking at it at a staff level. Her office is looking at this as an extension of the prior, but there's some steps they have to go through, so that's not official. But their assumption is it would be the same firm. So the money stays within DER. They can use those monies to advance the work. The end date for the work would be no later than June 30th, 2026. That's because of a master service agreement they have in place that expires after that date. They talked about vendor assumptions, so they'd be doing some additional data collection and design work. They would need, obviously, to get some public input. And that was part of what we talked about, is obviously the town would have to be part of that. And then really we talked about with the MVP grant, if we were to consent to go forward with this, how to ensure that this supplements and not duplicates the effort anticipated on the MVP grant. The goal being to get more than we otherwise would have gotten. But, that one of the questions we discussed is, assuming the consultant the town engages is other than the consultant that they engage, will the town's consultant accept their work product as being to their level of, quality assurance, quality control? Will they take ownership of that work, and will it be helpful or a distraction? So I asked her, what's a timetable to make a decision? Because obviously this come up very quickly. After she left the meeting today, I did keep Butch and Caitlin and Dan on for a few more minutes and just said, what's our feeling at a staff level? And our feeling is that this would add, another complication to the River Road initiative, but at the same time, we feel it would be hard pressed to turn away support, because we feel, I know Butch in particular, he has real concerns about this culvert and a sense that, we need all the help we can get. So, but anyhow, her timetable is about 3 weeks from now. She's got to make a decision. So I don't think we need to make a decision tonight. The way we left it was, I'm going to send her the RFP that we put out for the MVP grant, which it will be any day now. And basically she can look at that and because they haven't scoped the work for this, she's got about 3 weeks to come up with a scope of work. So is there a way to realistically for them to scope their work that kind of complements and doesn't distract
Why don't we
from?
just cut out that culvert from the MVP?
You could, I mean, that's one of the things,
things.
you could.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's, I think a simple way to look at it is if they're gonna be looking at a design option for that specific culvert, that could kind of be left out of the alternatives analysis. That's probably oversimplistic, but I think you could do it that way. Obviously, in terms of, public process and, the residents, they don't care if it's this contract or that contract, that can get a little like
And so the
confusing. in terms
MVP
of-
scope could incorporate the results of their work and make it part of the overall package.
Yeah, particularly where their work would be done by FY 26, whereas the MVP goes for a full 12 months after that. I think at a staff level, we'd like to find a way to make this work, but I think based on the, this new information about them managing the vendor, not the town, it makes it plausible. But I think we all agreed we need to really see whether it fits in a way that's helpful. I think it could, but
So when they did this last project, what was the level of staff engagement with that?
it was pretty light.
That's what my impression.
Yeah,
but
yeah, it
what
was
does
pretty
that
light.
mean?
Yeah,
Every couple
yeah.
of weeks you were engaged? or-
Yeah, I mean, there was a good amount of email correspondence. There were only a handful, maybe probably 5 or 6 meetings over the course of the project, Zoom meetings. There was some work I know Christine did with Butch on giving some guidance as to where the geotech would take place. But in terms of actual meetings, it was limited. there was some correspondence. It wasn't overwhelming. And I think at the end of the day, we felt that the end product with regard to our culvert was pretty thin. But I think that had more to do with the state's objective is to produce guidance. They're more concerned about producing guidance for communities than they are about our specific culvert. So I didn't look at that as a knock against the consultant so much as what their scope, what their client was asking them to do.
And you feel like this could be different than living more?
I'm not totally sure because she did say they would hope to get to like a concept design. But given that we were just contacted recently and this all has to be done by June 30th. They're certainly not gonna, she said, we're trying to, help, their goal will be to help us get closer to where we're like permit ready, but there's no way, I mean, obviously, we would be a long ways away from permit ready.
So how would this differ than what is currently in the MVP grant? I mean, this just supplants it, right?
For that specific location.
So why not pass on that and just keep the MVP grant, keep that under one program? Otherwise you're dealing with a separate.
And if we cut it out and in fact it doesn't get us where we need to be, then we've lost that.
I mean, again, as you said, I think their objective at the state is to look at culverts in general, not for the benefit of the town. We need to micro focus on this a little more probably.
Yeah. I mean, how about this? So I'm, we're so close to finalizing this RFP, but it's not final till it's final. So once that's final and issued, I'm gonna send that to her. Which will be, I think in the first part of next week. I could ask her to send us a draft of the scope they're working on, so we have something more clear, because we never saw the scope that was used to engage Ty and Bond the last time. It was described to us, but we never actually saw that. We kind of had a sense that their focus was the guidance and less so on the case studies. I think we would want to know before we agree to this, what is the actual work product? What is this consultant being asked to do by DER so that we don't have elevated expectations that end up, not being met.
I mean, we have the funding opportunity when the MVP grant already addresses. All this does is just say, we'll take care of that funding. But I would assume that money goes back to the state on the grant if we don't use it for that. So I'm not sure there's a benefit.
Mhm. Yeah, so maybe once you find out whether it's gonna be redundant or,
Okay. All right.
so I guess this should have been a discussion item. After that.
Well, I didn't know when this agenda was posted. I didn't know until actually earlier this afternoon that she had 3 weeks to make a decision, because what happened is I got her notice and then right around the same time, Dan Callahan sent me something he got through a listserv with an October 28th date. That's a different program. That was not the same program.
Okay.
Is there a way to shut the AC off? Yeah, I don't know, lettuce crispy here or something.
Are you right under a
It's
fan?
coming right out of here, yeah. You're not cold? I'm freezing.
You're blocking most of the cold air.
I guess there's not a way to shut it off.
Now without contacting Brian.
Okay.
We're not doing that, okay.
Do you have a jacket?
I know, I'll be back in an hour.
It might be my fault, because I've told him repeatedly that I find this room gets really muggy during our meetings. So I've told him.
You mean the room of the conversation? Okay.
All right. Item F, request to recommend appointment of a representative and alternative for Whittier Regional Agreement for the RAC committee. So I had a couple of questions on this. Have you all agreed to a 2/3 majority vote?
No.
Okay.
No.
I mean, I think that's great, but I was just surprised to see it.
So this is substantially my draft.
Okay,
Did I blind copy on that?
yeah,
Yeah, she sent me a draft. I made a lot of changes.
okay,
So take it with a grain of salt. This is not her proposal. And the meeting that Chris and I went to last Wednesday, I expected by now we would have received something specifically asking our town and the other 10 towns to designate people. That hasn't happened.
I thought they stated the meeting was supposed to do that. I don't know if we need a request.
No, remember it was said, it would be helpful to have something from them formally inviting each city and town to, you know, and we talked about the importance of a charge, and so, she drew up a draft charge. When I sent my red lines back, and I didn't include red lines, but I think I blind copied you, there was a lot of red.
Yeah.
My advice to her was, she should review it with her legal counsel. So this was really just put in for discussion. I kind of like the 2/3 idea, but it's, you take it with a grain of salt.
So it would be a subcommittee of the
School
school
committee,
committee?
yeah,
Seems kind of, so does that mean they have power to appoint, or,
yeah.
so it, would be nice if it was independent, but I guess there's no way to.
One thing that's very different about the Whittier Regional Agreement than the Pawtucket one, the Pawtucket Regional Agreement, the school committee is not a party to that. They don't vote it. The parties to it are the three communities in Desi. With the Whittier Regional Agreement, the way it's written, the school committee has to, the only two ways to initiate amendments to the Whittier Regional Agreement are either the school committee initiates them, or 5% of the voting, the voters in any of the 11 communities has to initiate. So what that means in practice is that the school committee is going to need to, unless some community gets gobs of signatures, is going to need to initiate the amendments. Which is very different than the Pawtucket.
Yeah.
Maureen said that they basically will, right? I mean,
Mhm.
They have to, or the project's dead.
that's why I
right?
asked
Yeah.
everything, not just the project.
Yeah.
Everything will be dead at
Yeah.
that point, yeah.
So I just assumed that it would be the same people that are, there's a select board member and then the town administrator for each of the communities, right? Isn't that what this group has been made up of?
Yeah, but it's not, there's not like a roster. It's just, and from month to month, the number of people who actually show up differs. It's always a lot of people, but there's like, and some communities, it seems to be the same couple of people. But other communities, it seems like it's on 1 month to the next, it might be a different individual. And so there's not a roster of who's on it. It's never been appointed. It's not a formal body.
And it appears to me what they want is, and I'm assuming you'll be the lead for us, that you show up, but if you can't, then I show up, or whoever the other point, but it's not like you both show up, because the women's voting anyways.
Well, ideally, you both show up, but you only get one vote.
Okay.
But that way
Sure.
everyone's fully engaged. That would be, I think, unless one of us had a conflict, assuming it was you and I. Yeah, I would intend to go whether I'm primary or secondary.
It talks to 4 members of the Whittier School Committee, but the intention, I thought, was they're not voting, but it doesn't specify that here.
Doesn't it?
Uh,
Oh, that might have been, wait, let's see.
One voting representative town.
That was. Let's see.
Again, we're probably putting this a little too far forward.
Yeah.
Gotta get done by the committee.
So are you willing to continue?
Not willing, but I will.
Willing.
No, it's not. I don't see you doing it. I'm sure Ross does it.
You're doing such a good job with it, Chris.
Here's the, so in my correspondence. So I sent my markups to Maureen, then I sent her a follow-up email last Thursday to Maureen. I hadn't happened to read the recent WHAV article until just now after I'd sent my draft. I hadn't realized that the 4 school committee appointees to the RAAC would be non-voting. So that would be an important point to clarify in the RAAC charge. And she got back to me that same day and said, hi, Angus, I don't think that decision was made. After speaking to the attorney, that didn't seem to make much sense because the RAAC is a subcommittee of the school committee. Thanks for the additional language, much appreciated. So that was in the news article that they would be non-voting, but I don't, it sounds like that's not.
I think they should be, otherwise it's not really a representative committee,
Yeah, that's-
the towns.
That's where it gets sticky.
I think that's the majority opinion
Yeah,
of
okay.
the municipalities.
All right, so I'm assuming you are still willing to
Mhm.
do this. Great, all right. You guys are hired.
This is the primary, correct?
Whatever you guys say. Yeah.
That's my motion.
All right, a second, do we need a motion?
Action item.
It would save a step for later, yeah, whether the charge will change, but the gist of it, I think, is clear.
Yeah. All right, all in favor? Aye. Okay, G is, review of progress to obtain signatures for the Break Hill Terrace petition, so. It's from Jen today, she said there's 5 petitions out. She had 3 of them, they had a total of 30 signatures. She said one of the 2 that are out, she doesn't have a copy of, but she confirmed there's 30 signatures on that. She also has permission from Mary Fowler to put up a table over the Thanksgiving week,
They have a total of 30,
total of 6,
or 60.
that's what she's telling me. So, does that constitute substantial progress? I'm not sure.
No, we said at the last meeting.
Did we say 100?
Yeah.
Yeah. So very much manage this. At the last meeting, I thought you said we should just file the shit regardless. What do you think, Ross?
Do we have to solve it, or is that just depend on what kind of storm path, do you know, I guess?
It's snow and ice. I think if DPW is given the direction to maintain it, or, snow and ice operations, they're gonna do whatever they feel is appropriate.
Are you asking me? Yeah.
Well, I was just curious if there's just.
Yeah.
I guess as where does it end? We did it last year, saying that wasn't gonna happen, we did it, went back to it again. The other curiosity too is we do pass, which would be spring town meeting. This chapter 40, section 60. All it says is it authorizes the town to appropriate money. It doesn't say you have to.
Mhm.
I mean, it's very open-ended, and then I think in there somewhere is the list of all the other potential roadways that are private that the town could then own. I think the discussion grows exponentially the closer we get to considering this chapter 40, 60. So,
Well, if you go back to the legal opinion, I think it was right at the end of March of this year, that talks in detail about the statute. Sharon said in that even if it was adopted, the select board has full discretion as to which private roads to provide the service, and that could be revisited every single year. That's not even that's not something the board would vote once and it would be set. It would be something that would be an annual policy decision.
Even for ones that have already been approved, like say Break Hill Terrace.
Well, when the statute doesn't relate to a specific street.
No, but I'm saying if under the statute, we approve Brick Hill Terrace, are you saying we have to decide every year whether to continue?
Correct. The town meeting action is whether to authorize the
Right.
expenditure on private roads. Operationally, which roads to include, if any, rests with the select board. And yeah, if you go back to Sharon's opinion from late March, it's clear on that. She said a lot of towns, their boards annually issue a list of what private roads they're gonna maintain that year. So, which I think is probably would be a concern of the neighbors as well, because it's revocable. It's not something that would assure them lifetime
Mhm.
maintenance, snow and ice operations.
But that petition is specific to that street.
No, it's not.
Oh, it's just
Just the
for
general,
everyone in town.
just allowed.
potentially for everyone in town, doesn't even,
It's an enabling statute.
I think it almost dangerous to accept it. Anybody with a private road anywhere could then have it like ours plowed, and
Could and would. Eventually, sooner or later, they all would.
yeah.
This seemed like such a good solution when it was proposed, but no. So what about this winter? I feel like they are making the effort.
I wasn't the one who set the 100 signatures threshold with the rest of
I was just throwing it out there.
it. I'm throwing it right back.
All right, so do we get back to them, say we need 100 signatures by a special town meeting? That was our original
I
time.
thought it was by now, thought we expected to have somebody here and,
It was by, the original discussion was by Springtown meeting. I just said this meeting, because it would give us time to talk about it if we decided to do something.
And I don't think it's a big push for the town to continue plowing. I don't have a problem with that.
Yeah,
My problem is with the way it's being handled or not handled and disregard and wasting our time. This has been before us multiple times, either do or no do, there is no try. It's what you get.
I know. I got there first. So what is your recommendation then?
Refer to the chair suggestions.
But even if they were doing, it doesn't sound like we're really interested in.
What they're doing?
I don't think there's a long-term plan for the town to keep plowing this private road or others.
Or others, right? So even if they had 100 or 120, even if they were really cooking with this, like. If we're leaning in the direction of, even if it were to pass, not. Doing it, and maybe that message needs to be sent. Now. I also was inclined to. You know, do this winter for the same reasons, you know, because it's kind of in process, but. Kind of seems to me like it's sending a mixed message to say. Well, we'll keep plowing because you're doing something, even if that something leads to. A scenario in which we're not gonna wanna plow anyway.
Yeah, that's recently, that's pretty recent.
Yeah.
That understanding, just between the last meeting now, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
So you wanna make a motion, I'll give it a try.
sure.
Make a motion, we send a letter to the residents of Break Hill, letting them know that the town will accommodate and plow this year, but that the select board will not be supporting the chapter 40, section 60 proposal. And even if it does pass, that there is a peril on the property owners to understand it might still not get plowed. We don't have an intent of doing it in 2026. This will be the last year. I think to communicate it that straightforward with them, I wouldn't give false hope.
But why did we have them do all the signatures then? I mean, I feel like that's kind of a bait and switch.
First of all, they haven't done all the signatures. You know, if you said you wanted 100 by this meeting or 60, that's insanely under the threshold that was established, and it's been going on for 6 months. So if they get 10 every month, we got a long ways to go. They were told last year it was not gonna happen, and we caved, and we said this year we didn't have a process, and we're caving again. So I think at some point you have to sit there and say in writing that.
And you could even. Almost split the baby with them and say, well, plow through 12/31. It's the continuation of 2020, you know, for the calendar, I mean, that, or not, you know, or you could just. But at least then you could say that at the end of 2025, you know, we'll start, we're finished in this calendar year, but after that, but I agree. With the rest of the motion, the only question I had is we can't, you had said at the last meeting that the select board can't. Take a stance on.
Once something is on the ballot,
Yeah.
there are campaign finance issues of you can't. Advocate as a board, as an individual, you can take whatever position.
So we would just be putting them on notice that if it were to pass, we might not be agreeable as a board to.
I don't want them to have false hope to go get the signatures to go and
Right.
get town meeting to vote favorably and then.
Not town meeting, the election,
Okay.
yeah, the ballot,
And then
yeah.
either way, but then the select board comes back and said, hey, we're never gonna fund this anyways. That would be disingenuous, and I think you have to let them know that right now.
Yeah, but I just feel this has been disingenuous already. You know, we were not sure what to do. There's gonna be a town meeting article, and then we come up with this brilliant solution and told them to get the signatures, and then we, you know, to allow us to plow it, and now we're saying, oh no, we're not gonna do it anyway.
Well, because you've opened Pandora's box. Now you've got every private street. It wasn't
No,
specific to the one. Now
So
it's.
is that what's changed, that we thought it was specific to the one?
Yeah.
Well, but the legal opinion was from, I'm not suggesting that everyone has to, you know, should like memorize everything, and you know, you weren't even on the board, but it was before us. I think it was March 28th was Sherman's opinion. I only know because I looked at it fairly recently. But that's what says that it's, you know, it's a townwide thing and that the select board as the roadway commissioners then determine, you know, which roads to maintain, to do snow and ice. And I think it was more conversational in her email to say that in a lot of towns, the boards publish a list annually. I don't think that was like legal advice so much as just in her observation, that's how different towns who've adopted this statute handle it.
You know, you're implying we misled them, whatever your phrasing was, I don't
I
recall.
don't think it was intentional, but from their point of view, I think, you know.
We didn't mislead them. You said 100 signatures by the meeting tonight when somebody.
We said 100 signatures at last meeting. What we told them is substantively, you know, moving towards progress. That it was something very vague.
I mean, you could word the letter basically saying in light of what appears to be
Lackluster.
no facts, sir, you know, before you guys trip over yourselves to get the rest of the signature, you feel like this is upon set, you know, more thought. You feel like this is gonna expose the town to considerable, blah, blah, blah. But I agree, the optics are a little bit funky, but they're not really even close, doesn't seem like.
So I just pulled up, this is from the packet from the April 3rd, and this looks like it was a joint meeting. But so the question, if would the board have the authority to decide which private ways would enjoy these services? Yet the board of the road commissioners have the authority to determine which private roads the town will plow. Some towns ask their DPW to provide a list based on the condition of the road, possibility of damage to the road, blah, blah, blah. Many of snow removal policy. And then I went on to ask, would you amend your traffic rules and orders? And she said you could do that, or simply have a list of private ways to be plowed, which the board could update or change year to year. It's often included on the municipality's website. I think those were really the material parts of the response. So that's not new information. This came in at a time that, yeah, we were dealing with 60 warrant articles and
But suddenly we saw a listing of all the private roads that potentially
yeah.
would come up. That's the new information.
Mhm.
And that this could encompass all of those.
And as I said, the last time this came up, I've been approached by residents with that exact concern that if this MGL was adopted, that it's just a matter of time before some number of other private, you know, roads come in and petition this or future boards.
All right, did you second? I do that motion. I don't feel good about doing this, so.
Let's not vote at that. then.
No, I mean, I'll just vote against it. If it seems like you both are more concerned about setting precedent in other roads.
Do you have a solution?
No. I did not realize until the last meeting that, that this would open us up to more than just Break Hill Terrace. I guess I just didn't pay close attention.
I don't think any of us did, because we requested a list of the roads, and once you saw the magnitude of that, it was kind of surprising.
I mean, what about where we started with this a year ago and whether the town initiated this or the owners did, they, you know, if they went and hired an engineer to do a street acceptance plan, they could petition for the town to accept that as a public road. And if they got enough signatures, they could get that on a town meeting to accept it as a public road. They would have to have a street acceptance plan, it would have to follow the procedural steps. That would cost someone some time and money from legal and engineering, which I think we all agree is not the town's expense to bear. But there's nothing preventing private owners, just like, you know, the developer Major Boyd, you know, he funded those costs to bring forward that petition. And in that case, the select board favorably recommended it because that was the plan all along. Even if the select board didn't favorably recommend it, if they did as a petition article, they could get it on a warrant. So it's like, it's not like there's no remedy available.
But Major Boyd Drive is up to town road standards.
Yeah.
When you're accepting that, if you accept this.
Oh, I'm not
that's a
suggesting.
huge obligation.
Right, I'm not suggesting you should or would want to do that. I guess I bring that up because,
Be less expensive for them to just contract a plowing company. For the winter, you know.
for all winter, but, you know, for every winter, it's a different thing.
Well, but engineering studies can be 25,000.
I don't know.
I don't think personally the town should accept roads that aren't up to town standards. That's a
I
bigger
know
issue.
Wendy said the same, you have, I believe the same opinion on that.
I mean, I think the sting's gonna be worse by not taking action. I guess to Chris's last question, I don't know what the alternative is, do we not take action tonight and keep thinking about it?
No, I don't think anything's gonna change,
Yeah.
right? So,
First of all, they have the right to pursue this and get the signatures anyways, if they want to, that's up to them.
all right,
So I guess we,
all right, so I'll give her
well, we're in favor of, is my question.
your motion, which was to continue plowing for this year, this season, right? Not the end of the year. So-
The seed,
And inform them that, you know, due to the number of private roads that could be added on, that the select board is not inclined to, you know, follow through with this, even if it is passed, so we should start making movements. That's what you said.
Yeah.
Or kind
you said it a little nice, you always do, so I will go with that as an amendment to my motion.
of, all right. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
All right, not earning any fees. And Maybury. So would you like to write the letter, please?
No.
I don't want to write it.
It is unfortunate that they're not here, I mean, they were given notice.
Yeah, I just wonder if my email kind of. I just said we don't need the actual petitions, just a copy. If you want to just report.
Well, I know,
That's fine.
you know, Rebecca sent them at a specific time
Oh, she
and
did.
did not get a response.
Well, then, again, we're taking care of their problem for this year.
Yeah.
And if they want to, they can still gather signatures and go forward with the, that's up to them.
All right,
Yeah, they were told, 7 p.m.
okay,
that it wouldn't come up before 7 p.m. tonight.
all right. Vote to disband the MBTA working group. So what's in here was. That was just the agenda. See, I'm confused because we meant to approve these two sets of minutes.
Yes.
On September 11th.
Yeah.
So it's just the.
Yeah, so I guess we just included that just to let the others know that the working group has completed its work. The final minutes are approved, there is no continuing
Yeah.
reason, so it's just a formally kind of disbanded.
Do you want a motion for it?
Yes, please.
Make a motion, we formally disband the MBTA working group and thank them for their work. Second.
All in favor?
Aye. I think I know the answer to this, but my approach would be, rather than deleting their page, to simply mark it's disbanded that way, but that way it stays on the town website as
Yeah,
like
because
a
there's at
record.
least until after the vote.
Yeah,
There's good information
yeah.
there.
Yeah. Right,
I had made some edits to for the webpage, some of the information wasn't complete, right, and we passed them on to Amanda.
Okay.
And that's-
good.
All right, minutes, September 11th. Just while not present. Do you have any edits?
No, I had sent a couple over. Or, incorporated.
Okay,
Make a motion to approve the minutes of September 11th as submitted. Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Let's see. A number of comments on September 18th. I wonder if it's better just to. The max on these, So would you be taking the notes then? Hank?
Yeah, I would just be marking them up and
All
putting
right.
to him.
I would just, under staffing updates, it says Jennings thanked Molly Hawkins, I would just say Conservation Commission Chair.
That's why?
Why?
Yeah.
Because that's her title, that's why she did it.
Oh, you're not trying to limit her name.
No,
Okay.
no, just to say that's who she is.
Okay.
I don't know, I would delete for her hard work, seems kind of That would be my preference. Because she filled in. Angus, on item D, conversation with senior staff of Mass DOT. Can you just take a look at that? It's not clear to me what he's trying to communicate.
I mean, I definitely said something that, DOT had expressed that they were impressed by the work the town had done and specifically how quickly we got the Page Pipe Save crossing under construction.
Okay, so
I don't know if it needs to be reflected here, but, I think that, the gist of it was the town's, cultivated a really good working relationship with DOT and.
okay, so that's good. And then the next one. On the second, it says that were incurred by the contractors will be vetted by town council, and I would add and considered by the board of water commissioners. Because town council wasn't deciding whether to.
Yeah.
And then in the next item, I don't think this language is correct about the rollout of the capital campaign or the capital program. Says the expenses for FY 27 were pointed out and staff asked to contribute edits.
Yeah, I mean, there's some other phrasing like concerned with, I feel like connotes concern rather than involved with,
Relevant.
or.
And then in the next, under the PRSD, I would strike to do its best. I would just say the town will support the regional school district.
Mhm.
And I would add. Let's see. I would also strike be expanded, so the scope would most likely examine the current space needs of all the elementary schools and evaluate the feasibility of a regional elementary school. I mean, that's what they would be doing, right? Or are they just assessing the schools?
No, that's, I think is what it's,
Okay, so I just add and evaluate the feasibility of a regional elementary school to the end of that sentence.
how about, something to add to the end of what you just said, to serve 2 or more communities?
Yeah, oh yeah.
Because it could, yeah.
On the next one on Cortland Lane, it's not undetermined what level of service. For that, right, that parking area,
No, it's been determined and it's been
Okay.
communicated.
Do we even need a description here? Just an update, it wasn't really about that, it was about the correspondence that we received, right? We just strike that sentence, or do you think something needs to be there?
I think it would be sufficient to say the board acknowledged receipt of, correspondence from the resident and has communicated what they can expect in terms of
Yeah,
level of service.
yeah. On K, instead of light polluting, I would, I guess you could say light pollution, is that really what we're calling it, light pollution from the streetlights?
Where are you?
On item K on the next page. They're more energy efficient, but I think
There was a comment about it at one point that I don't know if that was the objective, but
It's, the objective all along is energy efficiency.
don't maybe just strike that and for light pollution. On item B, under action items, I would strike women. Just,
Sorry, they've been stricken, but he left it in.
yeah, um. And the next one I have is on the myopia hunt club. It was confirmed by Chief Dwyer that myopia volunteers could assist with, I would say, the road crossing on Poorhouse Lane. And strike the parenthetical, 'cause that's the only reason he agreed to it, is because it's on a, not Poorhouse Lane, Arco's Place. Isn't that the name of the road?
Yeah,
I don't want to establish a precedent that we're not gonna follow the, public safety ordinance. And after it says the Conservation Commission denied use of Salmo Brook, I would add because trail approval of this property was not heard.
because what?
Because trail approval for this property has not occurred yet. I've got a bunch of like, are you guys all right with me just sending these to Max? So.
Yeah.
I thought I was being clever by making comments, but now I have all these little bubbles, a little, I'm trouble reading, that is true too. Okay. Can somebody trust me on this?
We'll make a motion, we approve the minutes of September 18th as modified with future modifications, which Wendy will send to Max.
Okay, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Okay. All right, the next one is on the October 4th meeting we had. So I believe this is 3 hours worth of talking, but I think I got all the highlights.
I didn't know if that correct these because you wrote them, I think.
All right, so you correct them. I didn't send it by you, which is.
I read it.
You're okay with it?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay,
Make a motion to accept the minutes of October 4th as submitted.
so all in favor?
Aye.
All right, next update, Whittier working group meeting. Did we kind of talk about that already?
We did.
Not really.
Just this one thing, I think we'd already reviewed the draft letter, and you guys were favorable to that. At the meeting last Wednesday, it was agreed that would be on the next agenda of this working group.
Mhm.
But the response was very favorable at the meeting, but I'm sure different towns will run it up the flagpole.
All right, next item is B, review of the select board and town manager priorities for the planning department. Was this shared with Chris? Did he?
No, well, so everything I had previously
Yeah.
communicated to him, I previously communicated to him, so. No, I didn't want to get ahead of what came out of tonight's meeting, so I want to share with you what I have expressed to him. But this is not, well, obviously the public letter, the planning board can read it, this isn't a form of what I would put into the planning board's packet.
Yeah.
Or something much more succinct.
I mean, I found this very helpful just in terms of the planning board role, you know, the citations that you.
I
had.
thought it would be, because I feel like not everyone's necessarily working with those references, and I think it's always good to go back to the primary source documents.
And it was interesting that they may be authorized to act as park commissioners.
Yeah. If we didn't have,
Right,
yeah.
right, but the reporting is to the select board or town meeting, it's not to individual committees, right?
Yeah.
Which is the current situation.
What was that I missed? The same.
It's just talking about their ability to take on general planning items and make reports to the select board or town meeting. But right now they're tied up with making recommendations to the park and rec commission, which is not really what this is saying. was just kind of aside.
So, yeah, I think in terms of what, to send to the planning board, so if we just take them in order, so MBTA, obviously that's knock on wood, gonna be done in a matter of weeks. The ground mounted solar, that was complete, there were bylaw amendments done that I think were improvement a couple of years ago. Housing production plan's been submitted, no further action. Zoning amendments, I did go ahead, so this triggered, writing this memo triggered some recollection, because I felt like there'd been some follow-up back in 2022. So I checked my inbox, and sure enough, there was an email back and forth between Robin Stein and myself back in 2022. And it indicated we'd had a call, and I didn't find that she'd ever sent anything in terms of review of the current bylaw, and I didn't find that I'd ever asked her to in writing. So I reached out to her just yesterday, I think it was yesterday, and I said, do you have any recollection that I ever asked you to work on this? And she and I both recalled that at the time, I basically told her it's not a front burner issue. I think at that point, we were moving toward the solar. And so she'd never been asked to review it. So I said, well, you know what? No harm in getting your assessment. So I've told her to go ahead and review it. So sometime in the next, and I told her it's not front burner, but I assume in the next, 1 to 3 weeks, we'll probably get her markup. And I did look through the bylaw. I have some questions as to whether it complies with federal mandates, which have changed enormously. And specifically, there's something called a shot clock, which has incredibly short timelines for once a cell tower is proposed. A town has a maximum of 150 days to issue the permit. And if it's a co-location on an existing tower, it's 90 days. So it's lightning quick. And that's the kind of thing that I think is important to be in the bylaw, because while there's nothing like this on the horizon, if something gets filed, it's important for everybody, including the permit granting authority, to know they don't have 18 months, like they have 150 days. So that was one that kind of jumped out at me. I think she'll find other things, because my knowledge of the FCC rules is a little bit dated, and I think it's changed. So
Okay,
whether it's like a priority issue is a different question, but
it seems to me that these kinds of things that could be hanging over us are a priority.
I think it should be, because if something comes in,
You don't wanna be doing it like.
yeah, having to explain to the public, oh, our bylaw's out of date, oh, I know the bylaw says this, but we really can't enforce it. That's not a good place to be. So I think once I get her review, I'll share it, and you guys can assess where on the priority list, but I think it should be on the list somewhere as a housekeeping item.
Yeah.
The cannabis policy, Sam he's in ongoing correspondence with the Cannabis Control Commission, basically to ask them the question of if something were to be filed and we don't have a protective bylaw, how would he handle that as the building inspector? So he's trying to pin them down on an answer, but I continue to think this needs to be a front burner issue.
Yeah, I mean, they kind
No
of
pun
didn't.
intended.
They didn't really take it seriously, though. It seemed like they were trying to push it back to us or something.
It seemed to me that way.
Yeah, I think it's a priority. It's just like the wireless, it could become a real issue.
Yeah.
Really quickly.
And I'm just thinking, so what's the real issue? Somebody buys a little building downtown, wants to put a pot shop in.
That's right.
Does that bother people anymore? I don't know.
My concern in that scenario, which is that could happen.
Oh, I very well.
Is that, so I did ask, Chris Riley earlier this week, we talked about this at the staff huddle yesterday morning, and I asked him, under our site plan review bylaw, if there's a change of use of an existing space from one retail to another retail, but there's no exterior modification, no change in parking, no change in anything, does it trigger site plan review? And he confirmed, yes, it does. The way our bylaw is written, a change of use triggers site plan review, even if there's no exterior modification. So in that scenario, it would go to site plan review. But again, this is similar to wireless, it's important that the permit granting authority understand where they do and don't have authority, because otherwise they could, so. It would trigger site plan review, which actually made me feel a little better, because part of what I was concerned about is, let's say the building commissioner, as a matter of law, had to allow that with no public hearing, and then all of a sudden there's a new shop and everyone's like trying to say, well, who issued the permit? And somehow that falling back on a staff person it's not his job to keep the bylaws current.
It's curious that it would require site plan review. If it's a retail and goes to retail and there's no that's so.
No, it is curious. I expressed in the email I sent to staff on that, to Chris Riley and Jen and to Sam, I expressed my opinion, which is, and when I worked at Westford, they had the same kind of bylaw. A change of use was triggered site plan, even if there was no exterior modification. You've been to Westford, you've been up and down 110. There's multiple big commercial plazas with 40 bays. Every time something changed from a Chipotle to a Subway, my staff had to run a site plan review process. It was, I thought, outrageous. It was the most frivolous use of staff time. It was crazy. No change to parking, no change to,
Because that's what site plan review is looking at anyway. It's not looking at the utilization of the space.
I thought it was out. In Westford, it was a huge issue because we had tons of site plan reviews for things that, as a planner, I did not feel in any way should justify site plan review. I'm less concerned about West Newbury. We have such few commercial spaces, but as I recall, that was why the Soldier and Sailors building had to go to site plan review, which I felt was a waste of time and money to have to bring that to site plan review. But we did, and we spent thousands of dollars and many, many dozens of staff hours to bring that through site plan review. Because the planning board, the bylaws required it.
So any revision of the bylaws regarding site plan review is the.
Well, I don't know if that would be well received, because I think it's written that way because that's how they want
I
it.
wouldn't do that right now, particularly when this is the only place you get to hang your hat on this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, right. No, I think in this instance, it wouldn't be a bad thing as long as there was some guidance given as to.
Maybe should have passed a legal.
I mean, the main thing with site plan, you can't deny a site plan review application unless, and this is right from the law book, unless presents something that is something, I think the words are so injurious to the public health in a way that cannot be satisfied by proper conditions. Basically something that's so damaging, only in that case can you deny it. So it's not a discretionary approval, it is an as of right approval, and that is something that is clearly not.
So you gotta get your cannabis bylaw in place because they could still do it there.
You can't deny it, you can condition it reasonably, but you can't deny it.
Right.
Okay.
So ADU, that was done, thankfully, MBTA we talked about, and this is my direction to Chris Riley, both in my initial meetings with him, and I sent him a note in mid-September with the same idea. In my view, next to MBTA zoning, the next top priority is getting a comp plan process, and if we're gonna have any prayer of applying for a one-stop in the upcoming grant round, which I think is generally around March or April, maybe May, this has got to be a major focus of the planning board. I think the 113, I had mixed feelings about. When I was a town planner, I would have been right in the thick of that, but I don't necessarily need his involvement or that office's involvement. But at the same time, if there's gonna be like a mailing or I need help with a mailing, I'm certainly gonna that would be a natural, to have help from that office. And then the stormwater is a mandate, and I don't think it's gonna be a huge lift. It depends on, it will only be a huge lift if the planning board makes it a huge lift, because the consultant's gonna do most of the work.
So then would you add the wireless and the cannabis bylaws?
I think it would be good, yeah, when I wrote this, I wrote it kind of as like a just dashing off some quick thoughts. I hadn't at that time gone back to the 2022 now, but yeah, I would think we'd wanna send a single list. And, you know, these others, I have really mixed feelings about. I think the zoning amendments, I think Sam is really driving that. It'll go through the planning board, but I think it's more, those are things Sam is driving. And mowing property, I have no idea. I mean, it's planning adjacent. In a lot of towns, the planning board would be all over something like
Yeah.
that, but in this town, I don't know that we need any help.
I don't know. I mean, I think we will. It's not something the trust can do on its own unless we have staff support.
Yeah, I mean, that you would want them involved with like testing, you know, because the consultant may say something's feasible, but you really want your local staff to look at the regs and say, oh yeah, you're gonna need a waiver on this, or this is gonna be an issue.
Yeah, I think that one should be in there, but I agree on the zoning amendments that can go the same. Well, I mean, this is your call. So how do you think this is gonna be received?
Well, I'd be guessing. I mean, so what I'm thinking is, so MBTA, I think we need to keep that on until it's formally done. I would say the second is, the comp planning process. I would say the third is probably the cannabis,
Okay,
even though the stormwater is, they're both mandated.
yeah,
But, I think there's, where cannabis is gonna require a town meeting vote, like they kind of need to get on that, whereas the regulations, if that, you know, that's not bound to a town meeting vote. So I would put that third, fourth, I would put stormwater, and fifth, I would put wireless, depending on legal review. My hope, and it might be naive, is that they would see a list like that and say, oh geez, those are really objectively valuable and important. And when you back out the time that Chris and Jen have to spend just with the day-to-day running the office, that doesn't leave really any further bandwidth. I mean, a comp plan process could put it every hour that he has available could go toward that. So I would hope they would see that basically their shared priorities, and that we need to put our efforts toward those shared priorities. I doubt that's actually gonna happen. You know, I think if there is, you know, for instance, an effort to try to make this board responsible for like a cannabis bylaw, I think we should have some of these statutory things clear in mind to say, these are really planning functions. I doubt there's a town in the Commonwealth where the lead entity on the cannabis bylaw was not the planning board.
well, I think by championing the MBTA thing now, you know, I almost feel like they're gonna say, well, if you did that one, you can do the cannabis too.
But again, my question, would, you know, first of all, why can't we just all work together? And secondly, if they don't agree with these as priorities, what are their priorities that are more important?
Yeah,
So. There's somewhere here, they have their meeting October 21st.
Yeah,
I don't know if they. Always remote. I don't know if they invite us or not, if they wanted to have a conversation first, or, I don't know.
so there was a little bit of a, with respect to the MBTA, I guess they're not gonna provide a recommendation to the select board. It sounds like they don't want to provide a recommendation at town meeting either.
yeah, they would, they follow-up email.
I had more follow-up from Ann, but in looking at the regs, it's gonna be beyond 21 days, so they don't have to. Right, isn't there? They have to make a report, but if it's beyond 21 days from the public hearing, I think that's not a requirement.
I think that's correct.
Yeah,
So they're not gonna make a recommendation or a report?
That's what it sounds like.
Why?
So the second email she sent today, I took that to mean,
That was after I reminded her that was required, but then she responded to me and said, well, it just says May, but. And I looked at it and it doesn't, but then there's the 21-day clause, so.
because the language I sent you today was right from statute. The planning board shall provide a report with recommendations. Doesn't need to be a written report. Robin's said that before.
Yeah,
But the moderator will look to the planning board, say, what's your report on this? And presumably they would say they voted 5-0 in support of it.
Do they not understand the significance of that?
there's some concern about, they don't want to be left holding the bag if it goes south. I'm paraphrasing, but yeah, and so I think she's kind of caught in the middle. Yeah.
So,
But I went and looked at that reg and it does say if it's beyond 21
Yeah.
days, it's not a requirement, so I guess we don't need to push it because it will be beyond 21 days.
I guess I'm confused because I thought the whole purpose of their meeting this past Tuesday at 4 o'clock was
To
to
write the recommendation.
agree to some written, statement, and that was offered to them as a courtesy, so they could, if they wanted to have something in the FinCom booklet,
Yeah.
they could. I thought that was the intent.
All right. Okay, so do you have what you need for your?
Yeah, I think I would provide a much more succinct, something more like that 2022 memo. Just with those 5 items identified, and then leaving out everything about, that's more just for our context, so that if this does become a.
Well, it may be relevant though, if there's like discussion about who directs the planner, but.
Yeah, no, I think there will be, but at the same time, everything I've cited here is statute.
Right.
So I think I could have a assumption that they're familiar with the statutes that govern
Right,
their operations in the town generally.
Yeah.
If I'm proven wrong, I could send that as a follow-up
sure.
for their subsequent meeting. Say, oh geez, I had no idea, you didn't realize the MGLs that apply to your work, but.
So will you keep the Mullen feasibility study in there or no?
I think it's good to note that this is
Yeah.
actively ongoing, and is something that once this is received, is gonna be of obvious interest for the planning board, the planning department.
Okay, discussion of potential alternate dates for the town center planning.
I have half a mind to just push it to next spring with everything going on. I mean, Kevin's saying,
It's just a listening session.
yeah, and I do think, it would be timely to do something this year. We know there was the incident, just a few weeks ago where a resident's, mirror was hit. I think that it would be well received. I'm just so leery of putting out, so before she left, Christine did I think a very nice, flyer. It would need some tweaks, but it was a good draft. I glanced at it, said, oh, it's a good draft, it's gonna take a little work. I don't really have anyone to delegate that to. So that's something I've gotta get it done. I have a lot of other things, like, it's honestly gonna be like 2 weeks before I even have like 5 minutes, between the booklet and the MVP and.
Do you think the spring will be any better? Because then we'll be in the budget and.
Well, I hope it will be better.
Yeah.
I have mixed feelings. I mean, I feel like, we can strike while the iron's hot, that the survey's done, and it is just a listening session. But it's just the,
Yeah, the outreach and the logistics are nothing.
they're not nothing, yeah. And,
Okay,
yeah, and you send that and that triggers some amount of calls and emails, and it's just to take on something where we're really trying to do some other things. I mean, we are a client, so I could definitely just tell TC, appreciate the input, but we're gonna revisit this next spring. We have till December of next year.
okay, that sounds good.
I think that's better given, our bandwidth issues.
Okay, the culvert replacement prioritization study. This is just for our information, right?
Just for your information, no action needed, so, I think, Ross, this probably preceded your time on the board, but basically what happened is last spring, completely out of the blue, I want to say it was around March, we were notified that Ipswich River Watershed Association had gotten a grant from Mass DER to evaluate culverts in a watershed that includes a substantial part of West Newbury. And these were specifically non-tidal culverts. And so we were contacted in like March and they said, oh, we have Horsley Witten under contract. And we'd like to basically turn them loose to evaluate roughly 50 culverts in West Newbury. The only catch is it had to be done by June 30th. And it literally came up in March, like, this is like middle of town meeting, middle of budget, so we were like, you know what? It's free service. I got a commitment from Butch and Paul and Christine was involved. So basically we said, great, we'll take the help. We'll do what we can on the short time we have. They did most of the, the consultant did most of the work, but they needed some input from town staff as to where the culverts are and what the priorities are, because, so basically that all happened. We got this report on June 30th. And it occurred to me, it's never actually been formally shared with the board. So I thought I'd put it in your packet just so you're aware we have this on file. We did have that meeting last Monday with staff where we invited in Jonas Procton. And that was the first time he actually presented the report.
Okay.
And I talked to Paul and Butch ahead of time and they said it's good. They think it's good work that was done. It's very helpful. So basically it's an asset we have now. Our next step is to take this data as well as the culvert data from the MVP River Road work. And also I learned on the meeting last Monday that I hadn't known that Lori Kennedy from Horsley Witten back when Wayne was still here had done some culvert assessment within the MS4 urbanized area. I hadn't even known that can happen. So that's 3 sets of data. This is the largest, but there's 2 others. So the next step is just to get that into the pipeline to get built into our GIS to build out that stormwater layer so it gets more and more robust. So it's incremental progress, but it's definitely progress, and
That's good.
I think
Definitely a sleeper issue. First of all, I had no idea we had this many culverts. And then the assessment of the conditions and then going, oh, boy, that's a big price tag and a huge project, yeah.
Yeah, they all need permitting.
And nobody understands this. I mean, I walk every day, but I don't sit there and look over the site as a culvert. You don't even think of it until they fail, which will be then too late.
Right.
So it's,
So kind of the goal of this, so Paul said there's at least another 25 beyond the 51 that are in here. And that's only the inland ones. That does not include the coastal or the tidally influenced ones. So where we're trying to get with this is that anything that's going to need significant repairs or replacement, to get that into the capital program. And at a staff level, what we'd like to do, while there may be things every now and then like that are large enough in and of themselves to be their own project, what our goal would be, and you'll see this when I roll out the capital program later this fall, is it might be better to start having some periodic appropriations, whether it's every year or every 2 years or every 3 years, but some money that's more for culvert upgrades that's not specific to Coffin Street, for instance, but that's more allows Butch to kind of prioritize based on, there'd be an inventory, there'd be a general plan. Yeah, but that gets it more in front of the voters that these are capital assets and these do need maintenance and replacement. But rather than trying to put 50 or 70 new items in the capital program, which would just be that would be counterproductive. That would make things less transparent, not more, because it would be too much detail. The idea was, is there some amount that would be, reasonable for. So one follow-up, when we talked to Jonas Procton and Lori Kennedy last Monday was, we all, at a staff level, we all agreed it would be nice to take this further to where we actually had every culvert in town evaluated. And so I did invite them to get us a proposal. I said, it's probably not something we could do this fiscal year, but I don't think it would be a lot of money, probably less than $10,000, but not something we could just probably find in the budget. But let's say they get us a proposal and let's say it's $10,000 or something. We could either pursue an article or we could tackle that with some of our stormwater budget for next fiscal year. But we'd like to build on this to where we, in the not too distant future, have a comprehensive inventory of all the culverts in town and can then assess relative, priority. Because anything that's gonna need repair, replacement's all gonna need permitting and then all.
Yeah.
It's staff time.
Great. Let's see. Like, item E is scope considerations for the MVP grant. So Angus and I went to the CCRC meeting, I guess it was a couple of weeks ago now.
It's just last Wednesday.
Was it last Wednesday?
Time flies when you're not having fun, huh?
Yeah, so I had a couple concerns I just wanted to kind of get your feedback on. One is the Living Shorelines Technical Group. They were taken out of the grant, but the assumption is that they will still be involved and they would like to be part of the meetings with the regulators and they would like to get data from the consultant directly, which seems very challenging to me. But before I, wade into this, I just want to see what you both think about that.
What do you mean directly from the consultants?
They view themselves as a partner in this whole project and they want to be part of it, even though we took them out of the grant.
Well, they said they're still gonna do it anyways, regardless, so.
But not on their own. It's gonna be in tandem because they won't have visibility with the regulators if they're not part of our group. That's how it was presented. Is that accurate, Angus, the way you understood it?
I think that's fair, yeah.
They were also talking about engaging residents directly, and should they be talking to residents or should the town be talking to them to support their project? So I think there's a lot of blurriness in terms of roles, and I see it as actually conflicting with the MVP work, and it's gonna make things really confusing for the consultant as well as.
Well, that's what I was thinking, they don't know where to get direction from at that point.
Yeah,
It's a
so
problem.
it seems really messy, but the assumption is that they're gonna be intimately involved, so before I correct that, I wanna make sure.
That's
we're
their
all-
assumption.
Yeah,
Okay.
That's not the way we took it. They had a meeting and they said you could pull it out of the scope and they're gonna do it on their own. And I took that as okay.
yeah,
So they're trying to come back in and. I think it will make it very difficult for a consultant to try and have clear direction with two bosses.
I think where we'd arrived at, over the summer was that there's gonna be a public process with periodic public meetings, periodic public circulation of work products for comment. And that's gonna be kind of a standard public process. And they or anyone else can provide any input they want within, at those times where it's appropriate to provide public input. And that could be very helpful, but not on a current basis, because that, I think it does muddy the waters. And when we had those discussions, when Christine and I had those 4 interviews meetings last spring with the prospective consultants where we got input on the scope, there was some considerable concern raised as to what is this group, what's their role, where would we be taking our direction from? And we said you'd be taking from the town. But since that time, the scope's been clarified to try to make that really clear.
yeah, I mean, I tried to suggest that maybe they should just hold off until we do this MVP study and then come in and look at what's recommended and, look at nature-based solutions, but that doesn't meet with their timeline, so. Yeah. I mean, I think there's gonna be similar issues to work out with CCRC. I think we talked about them being part of the public process, but not necessarily, running individual tasks and that kind of thing. So. So any feedback on how we should manage this?
Sounds to me like a total non-starter, to have them engaging with their consultant directly. And the other thing is, it's kind of interesting because the scope has been narrowed to the focus areas, but presumably they're gonna be looking beyond the focus areas, which
Right.
again, kind of seems like it would be, to the extent that they'd be getting data from the consultant that would apply to what they're trying to do, seemingly be taking the consultant away from, what they're supposed to be doing,
So what do you think the best way to deal with this is?
I thought we made it clear when we decided if we're gonna go forward with the grant, that this will be run with the administration, via the group.
Yeah, so it's kind of, this is this kind of subgroup or an offshoot of the CCRC. It's not even the CCRC, so. Right, it's, it's a bunch of technical experts in, well-known people in Massachusetts that are working on living shoreline stuff.
I don't even know how yeah.
I mean,
I mean, they have every right to participate in the public presentations and things like that, but they don't have. It would make it almost impossible for a consultant. This is what we've been up against on other issues.
Okay.
Who gives direction and who takes it, so.
So we just need to have a blunt conversation.
I thought we did, I remember the meeting and you wanted to vote against the grant, and I said, if we can run it this way, and I thought there was some understanding on that.
Yeah, and there definitely was in terms of how this is, reflected in the RFP that's almost done, and it's gonna be reflected in the consultant contract in terms of communication being through the town's project manager. So it's more just, I think that's all gonna be made clear to the consultant.
So maybe once the RFP is complete, then it's time for a sit-down meeting.
I think that would be the right time, because until that's complete, there's a lot of speculation and guesswork, and and as you know, because you've seen drafts, it's very close. It's just this has been another work week where it's not gotten any time with everything else that's going on. It's really the kind of thing that only gets done on weekends, because there's just no time during the week.
All right, so that we'll just set up a meeting once it's done.
Yeah, I think once the RFP's issued, I think that would be, and then we'll share that around, and I think that would be, I think an in-person meeting would be good, and that.
I think a
helps.
focus meeting, not the entire CCRC.
Yeah, or with the living shoreline
Yeah,
group, yeah, but an in-person meeting, I think, can help make sure there's no
right.
misunderstandings and people don't take things the wrong way, because it's, there's no offense intended.
Yeah, okay. All right, letter of support for the school district funding. Are they looking for specific? Like from the town or just individual?
I think individuals, I think you have this in your inbox, so I think you could each sign on as individuals, but where it came from the superintendent, I wanted to put it in the packet just to make sure it didn't get lost in your inbox.
Did you get the email from Rep Ramos about the session in Boxford?
I did,
Did that go to you guys as well?
I didn't.
No, there's something in the packet here, that's, I know you're talking
Yeah.
about. That, no, I didn't get the email.
Okay. Yeah, it's October 23rd from 4:30 to 6:30.
Yeah, this came in. So this is,
That was just an invitation from Samantha from her staff.
right, but it's the same date
Yes.
that's I think in this one. That's why I didn't forward it, because it was, I didn't want to deluge you, but.
Okay,
but I will now.
anything else on this?
These letters are odd, when you have to sign on to a group letter.
No, I don't.
Well, I don't even agree with everything in it, so
Yeah.
that makes it difficult, but you also want to support the general premise, so.
Mhm. Okay. That's FNG, correct? Roughly,
Roughly,
Yeah.
yep.
all right. So item E, correspondence. Is the review, why is this on correspondence?
Well, so I, no, it's not.
Oh,
This is from the vendor.
okay,
So what happened is I stumbled on this on a shared server. And this was one of the part of the work product. When we got the seal, we were also given this. And I was like, well, this is kind of cool. So I just shared it because I was like, it's not asking you to do anything about it or approve it or anything, but it was part of what the design vendor who was engaged to do the seal produced. And I was like, well, that's kind of neat. So I thought I'd just share it. That it's like part of the work product and I told Max, I thought the vendor kind of delivered quite a lot for, I think their budget was like $850.
really?
They did like 12 different iterations of the seal, plus this whole guide. I just thought it was kind of cool.
Yeah.
It's curious, the component that a non-tech person can understand. By the way, the final prints in black and white really stink. I know, get on your computer, Chris.
Yeah. All right, and then the correspondence about the extension of the 90-day review.
Yeah, this is for the battery energy storage bylaw.
So do you know why it keeps getting?
I assume it's because it's a fairly novel area of law and they want to make sure that whatever they approve is something they're going to be comfortable with other towns now using as a model. It's just consequence of, I think, Sam being kind of ahead of the herd.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Future agenda items?
One thing, we're continuing to actively work on this, houseboat issue. You know, it's, basically, there's been a lot of churn, but ultimately no action. So I have reached out to town council, get their advice on what further steps we can take, and we do have a call scheduled next Wednesday. The statute that we have asserted, was, I should say my office, the select board's not ever been asked to vote that, but is, something that, we've never enforced before. Dwyer's never enforced before. Under the statute, the police department is the enforcing authority. It does provide for, it allows for the issuance of fines. But because we've never actually done that, we want to work closely with legal counsel to make sure that we're proceeding exactly in accordance with how it should be handled. So we do have a, meeting with council next week. And I did say that, well, I believe the enforcing authority is the police department. If there is a role for either my office or this board to play, we're happy to do that. So I guess I bring that up because if that does appear on your future agenda, it's because it's felt that that's important or necessary to push this forward. That's,
We've had correspondence in a previous package and it sounded like everything was agreeable and coming to a resolution. That's falling
but
apart.
that's why I say there's a lot of churn. It's like, it just is like
Yeah.
2 steps forward, 2 steps back. We're exactly where we've been for years.
Okay, that says something.
Yeah.
Okay.
But hopefully, this is it and something will get resolved, right?
Yeah, although I guess if the remedy is issuing a fine, that's not gonna resolve it.
No.
There's still gonna be, the physical thing has to be dealt with.
Yeah,
And if, you know, at what point does that rise to a level that, you know, if ever, does that ever rise to a level where the town has any right or responsibility to actually effectuate a physical change?
yeah.
So,
Does the harbor master have that, right?
no.
All right,
What are we doing?
no other future agenda items? Okay.
Good.
Favor,
Aye.
All right, the board does not have executive session tonight, so with their vote just now, the meeting is fully adjourned. Good night.